He wanted to spite you.
Speaking of spite, we're live.
Yay! Spite Live.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the 2021 Game of the Year celebration for this podcast, The Top Down Perspective.
Yay!
We did it.
Years.
We gamed through another year. A year where we all needed some video games, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And well, last year too, but yeah.
Those last 2
Yep.
years
And-
are basically
and
the
next
same
year-
year.
And next year.
And next year.
The next
Video
3
games,
years.
please save us.
Yeah, for sure. I'm your host, Sean Booker.
I'm Paul Fleck, a
I'm
host.
John Wheeler.
And we're doing a Game of the Year show. We've done a bunch of these. We've done too many of these. Arguably, we've done more of these than we've done years of the podcast. Somehow,
I forgot that's technically true.
yeah. If you haven't listened to one of these before, I'll run you through kind of how this is going to go. We have a selection of categories. You'll be pretty familiar with them if you submitted to our community survey, which I hope you did, which we'll also be addressing. But we're going to go around the room and each fill out pretty much a top 3 for every category, except for Game of the Year. Each of us have a top 10. And the main thing is that each of our lists are going to be different. There's no way all of us would be able to come to a consensus. We just play 2 different of games throughout the year, so we have personal lists, and we're going to talk about them. There shouldn't be any spoilers in this episode, so if you're worried about us spoiling a game that you're thinking of playing in the future, you should be fine. There's no reason we have to spoil the games. We're just going to talk about what we liked and why it's on the current list it is.
Yeah.
John, I'm going to call on you. Do you want to tell us the categories we're going to be going through today?
All right. If you've never heard the cast before, these will be all new to you, but if you've been around for a while, you're familiar with them all. Kicking it off, we're going to be doing 2021's 20XX Game of the Year. That's where we have games that we played in 2021 that did come out in any other year other than 2021 and 2020.
You got used to it.
Yeah. But the reason for ignoring 2020 is because we also have a 2021's 2020 Game of the Year, which is a game that came out in 2020. And I guess you kind of figured out from that. That comes right after that. After those two, we do most disappointing, whether this is a game or an event that happened related to gaming. These are the things that happened that we kind of hated that happened this year. Followed up with surprise of the year, a more positive side. Usually games that had got announced that we didn't expect, or games we thought were going to be bad that ended up being pretty good.
Yep.
Next up, we have best audio. Could be best soundtrack, essentially. Could be just good sounding, good dialogue, good acting, whatever. But either way, sound is involved, and that's how we feel about that. Patreon Game of the Year. This is our top 3 based on the games that we actually had to play for Top Down Perspective Plus this year. So we were specifically picking from that. And just this is a special note for this category. These actually start the year before in December. So it's December 2020 through the rest of 2021, ignoring December again, unless we change that this year. Did we line it back up?
It goes from December to December, just because of like the recording schedule and how it works out. This makes more sense.
Yeah. So we will not be discussing the game that we just did last time for Game of the Year discussion, Balan Wonderworld. So shockingly, that will not be on anyone's Patreon Game of the Year list. Wow. And then, of course, there's the big one, the top 10, where we go through each of our lists in order. So we go 10 from me, 10 from Sean, 10 from Paul, and then 10 from the community themselves. Because from the survey that you guys all did, it'll add up together and see who scored what the most and where everything landed.
Right.
After
and
that,
for those other categories, we'll have a top 3 just like we will for the community. And the one bonus that the community that we'll insert inside the top 10 is before we announce each of our Game of the Years, you guys all predicted what you thought each of the hosts' Game of the Year will be, and we'll announce those before actually giving the answer.
Yep.
Right.
And after all that's done, we give our honorable mentions, games that didn't quite make our top 10, but we still thought were worth mentioning. Then the tragic pile of shame, where we list games that we really wish we had played this year and probably would have made a dent on our top 10 if we had gotten around to playing it.
Yeah, this is the John Wheeler category.
Yeah.
Pilot
Presented
Shame
by-
brought to you by
Let's see,
John
what-
Yeah.
Wheeler.
Yeah.
John wanted his own category, and this is what we came up with.
I got 14 games on that list this year. That's
Like,
lower
Oh,
than
man.
usual. That's lower than usual.
And then our final
after-
category.
And our final category is 2022's Game of the Year guess. So we assume, based on what games we know are coming out this year, what do we think is actually going to be our favorite game coming out of that year? Obviously, it's going to be wildly off. We only started doing that one last year, and I looked at what I had written down last year and laughed. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And kind of to tie right into that, we'll do some predictions for what we think is going to happen this year. We'll also address the predictions we did last year and
Yep.
see how off each of us were, and that's always a lot of fun. So we've heard the categories. Let's start with the first one. 2021's 20XX Game of the Year. John, do you have a number 3 for this?
I do. Now, usually what I do for this list is I pick games that I've done for game clearing throughout the year.
Makes sense.
Because I have a detailed spreadsheet that shows everything that I've played through, completed, so I'm beating the game, I know what to expect. I actually bent the rule on this one in particular, because this was a surprise edition I did not expect to like as much as I did. Number 3 for me is Fortnite.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Genuinely did not expect to like it as much as I did.
Cool.
All right. Makes sense. You talked about it last week.
Yeah, that's
Happened at the
awesome.
very end of the year too, literally the last week of the year. Played with my nephews. Had a surprisingly good time. I see why people like it. You know what? I'm gonna give it a nod. Yeah, there you go. My third favorite game that didn't come out in the last 2 years was Fortnite.
Congrats, Fortnite. Finally getting
You
your
did.
recognition.
That's the recognition.
All right, Paul.
My number 3 is a mobile game that I started playing a couple months ago and have been just kind of finding.
Also Fortnite.
Yeah, also Fortnite.
That's
PUBG.
actually.
Yeah, PUBG. It's a game called Brawl Stars. It's made by Supercell, the company that did Clash Royale, and it's just a really fun jump in, do like little mini games against another team, and yeah, I don't know. It's been really, really fun, and I've been playing it pretty much every couple nights for the last couple months, which is more engagement than I've had from a phone game in a while. But yeah.
My number 3 game is Wilmot's Warehouse.
Oh, it's
this
good.
game
Nice.
is extremely delightful. It's also like both relaxing and really stressful at the same time. It's on Game Pass. It's on pretty much everything. I definitely recommend checking it out if you like just the idea of gamifying organization. Great look to it.
Sure. The community had something to say about 20XX, and this is always an absolute nightmare to add up, so I did it a different way this year. This year, I basically just, like, if somebody put it on their list at all, like the same game at all, it just got a point for every time it was mentioned this year for 20XX. So third place is a tie between... Is it actually the
90
meme?
games.
69 actually games. So
Okay, you do not have to read 69 games.
I'm not going to.
Wow.
I'll also
Wow.
take a moment to say that when this show is over, this is a spreadsheet I will be linking. So people in the community, if you're interested to see what your fellow community members had guessed for everything, their stuff will be here and the numbers beside it as well. But obviously not like the names or anything. So
Okay.
It is a tie. I'll name off just some random ones here. We got the Somnium Files. We got Dishonored. Dead Space 2 specifically is on here. Mega Man 1 specifically is on here. Shadow of the Colossus. It's a just grab bag. Some really good games here. But yeah, it is a 69 way tie for number 3.
Incredible.
This is why we do it,
Incredible.
folks. All right, John, your number 2 game.
My number 2 for 2021's 20XX Game of the Year, Misadventures of Tron-Bonne for the PlayStation 1, a spin-off of the Mega Man Legends series that actually takes place before both main games. You play as the villain in this time around. You have control of the Serbots. You have to do a bunch of different kind of pseudo minigame missions and jobs. It's just a very silly game with a lot of charm, a lot of fun voice acting, especially for that era. And it's just a generally fun, cool game to play. So there you go.
All right, Paul.
Nice. My number 2 was Shadows of the Damned. Replayed through that in one sitting this year, and
Nice.
it held up in a way that I wasn't necessarily expecting to. All the weird, like, dick jokes aside, but even then, sometimes those jokes still, like, land, some of them, so they're very few.
And sometimes you're in the mood for a dick joke. Like, sometimes it just hits you right.
Yeah. That game is easier than I remembered being and shorter than I remembered being. It definitely has some problems around the end with just padding out, I don't know, some weird crap, like shooter, like shmup type stuff that kind of sucks. But overall, I think the gameplay is pretty solid and it's just a fun time, just a fun playthrough.
My number 2 game is the Spyro Reignited Trilogy. I played through all 3 games pretty much back to back over like the summer this year. First time I had ever played those games, was pleasantly surprised. That third one is easily the best game. Yeah, that's a great package, especially since I got it on sale for like $15 or something like that. That's a whole lot of game.
Cool. Second place for community is a 2-way tie between Okami and Persona 3.
Okay, right on.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John, with your number 1.
Right. I'm not used to leading on these. Sorry. My number 1 for 2021's 20XX Game of the Year, Metroid Prime 1. I actually did not like this game way back in the day when I first played it back in like 2005, 6, whenever it was.
Same.
I didn't like the scan mechanic. I hated that I couldn't use the second thumbstick to aim. There was a bunch of things I hated about it, and I tried giving it a try every now and then on stream and stuff like that, and it just never clicked. But for some reason this year it actually stuck. We did it for game clearing, and I originally was just begrudgingly doing the scans, and then I ended up actually really enjoying that whole mechanic. It's once you get used to the control scheme, it flows really well. It's just generally really fun to play. So yeah, Metroid Prime for the GameCube.
All right, Paul.
My number 1 is probably no surprise to anybody who has been around. Final Fantasy XIV. It stuck this year, and I blazed through the rest of the story that I was missing from the original stuff. Started on the expansion, and then Game of the Year stuff was starting to come up around October-ish is when I stopped playing that because so many other things were vying for my attention, but I'm definitely just kind of itching to get back to it. Easily my 20XX Game of the Year.
My number 1 20XX game is no surprise either. It is Apex Legends.
Yeah.
I play a ton of this game. I play it every week. It was my game of the year 2 years ago. It was my 2019 game. Whatever the next category is, it won that one for me last year. And now it wins this category. So for all I know, it might just stay at the top of this list going forward, but Apex Legends is a great game.
I will say that nobody else on the community had Final Fantasy XIV because they are all in Endwalker. I'm the only one in the world who is still trying to catch up.
I don't think that's the case, actually.
At least in the community that that played it this year. I am the only one in this community that is still trying to catch up because literally everybody else is in Endwalker. Because that comes up a lot later on, which we'll get to. The number 1 for this category is a tie between Smash Bros. Ultimate and Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony.
2 very different, yet somehow very similar games.
And they both had 3 votes each.
Great. All right. That brings us to our next category, 2021's 2020 Game of the Year. This is a game that came out in 2020. For whatever reason, we played a bunch of it in this last year. John, start us off with your number 3.
Clubhouse games for the Switch. In a year where we couldn't travel anymore and play games with friends, having a bunch of surprisingly simple yet fun games to play online, and even up to 4 players at times, surprisingly good and surprisingly enjoyable. Liked it way more than I thought I would, and got more mileage out of it than I ever expected to.
Yeah, good call. My number 3 was Doom Eternal, the Ancient Gods DLC specifically, because that kind of the first part I think came out last year, and I don't remember if the second part kind of cradled the between them. But either way, just revisiting that game was an absolute joy, and that Ancient Gods DLC specifically is a cruel bitch mistress of a thing to try to get through. It is difficult, but there are some crazy neat story things going on there.
My number 3 is Dirt 5. This is just a really good racing game that looks fantastic. The HDR effects that they have are stunning. I think this is, if you have Game Pass and you like got a brand new TV, you should definitely check this out. There's like a weird podcast that's a part of the main story that stars Nolan North and Troy Baker, which is pretty crazy. It's just a extremely good racing game that totally flew under the radar.
Nice. All right, Community 2020. This one was not ties. Was Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right, makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, my number 2 for 2021's 2020 Game of the Year, Hades. Probably not surprising. It was my Game of the Year last year. Really good game that has way more content than you expect the more you play it. So
yeah,
highly recommended. Real fun.
Yep. My number 2, even though I didn't beat it yet, but I got VR this year, so I had to try Half-Life Alyx, and the amount I played of it, that thing is fucking incredible. It would probably be number 1 if I had gotten more time with it and seen really how deep it gets.
Okay. My number 2 is a small game called The Procession to Cavalry.
Right.
This kind of came out nowhere as like just a random Game Pass drop, and it is extremely weird. It's like a bunch of Renaissance paintings that they like poorly animated Angela Anaconda style. The writing is pretty funny. And it's just a goofy point and click adventure game with a ton of jokes in there that you can finish in like 90 minutes. And I think it's worth checking out. Like it is goofy beyond all reason.
Cool. Number 2 for the community was Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity.
All right.
My number 1 for 2021's 2020 Game of the Year, I actually swapped my first and second place games around. Super Mario Bros. 35. I realized it was just a really fun game from a game that I played a ton growing up. So it was nice to just see that game, that simple game, kind of turn on its head and just made way more interesting for me. So I definitely played more of that in this year than I did Hades, although it wasn't for long because it shut down in March, I believe. So
I was just going to ask, how long was that game around for?
I believe it only was around for 6 months total. That sounds right. 3 months so in 2020 and 3 months in 2021.
A bummer. My 2020 Game of the Year was Ghost of Tsushima. Revisiting that in Iki Island was awesome. It made me sad when I was done Iki Island that there wasn't more story content for me to play.
Oh, I'm sure they're gonna make a sequel to that. That thing sold gangbusters. There's a movie being made. Like, you'll have more Ghost of Tsushima in your life. Don't you worry.
Yeah, loved it.
And my number 1 2020 game is Going Under, a small little roguelike that randomly popped up on Xbox's like free weekend days, whatever those are called. And I liked it so much I bought it. I think the writing is very funny. The look of it's pretty good as well. I thought there were some really good jokes about being like an unpaid intern at a startup. It is on Game Pass now, so you can get that for free. Another game I recommend. In fact, all the games I mentioned in this category are on Game Pass, so go nuts.
The community 2020 Game of the Year was Hades, which,
not surprising.
It makes sense.
Not surprising.
Especially how much talk that thing got at the end of 2020. I'm sure a lot of people want to check it out, and that is not a game that you're going to see all of in one weekend. so it makes sense it would drag in.
Next up is going to be our disappointing game of the year. These games aren't necessarily bad, they just disappointed us, and they
Right.
didn't live up to the expectations we had for them. They
Yeah.
could also just be so bad that it was still a disappointment, but well, let's find out what we all picked. John, with your number
I'm
three.
glad you prefaced that with this, because my first one's probably going to annoy a bunch of people, because my third most disappointing game of last year was WarioWare Get It Together.
Hey, that's my number 3 game for this as well.
Wow.
Nice. All right.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah. I really did not like how that game controlled.
Yeah, I just didn't like the core initial premise of like they are all different. Like it made it so I can never bring this out at a party for people.
Oh, I didn't even think of it that way.
I'd have to explain too much, like, okay, hang on. So these are the 3 you want to pick because this guy, he jumps. This one goes back and forth, and then this one sucks, but like he sucks a lot less than the other 8 of them. It's like, yeah, I'm never gonna get to play this with friends.
Yeah, no, that's entirely fair. I didn't even think about the multiplayer wise. I was thinking just single player focus because, yeah, I didn't like the core gimmick. Some characters just felt samey, or as Sean pointed out, some are just better versions of the other characters. You just don't even want to play some of the roster, including some fan favorite characters like 9volt just sucks, straight up.
Yep.
I don't know, man. Like everything just felt slower and just not as interesting and not as enjoyable as it did in previous WarioWare games. I just like the fact that WarioWare was meant to feel really fast, and something about this just didn't quite click. It might be different if I had played co-op a bit with someone who was also playing along with me, but as a core experience for single player, was very disappointed.
Yeah, and it's super odd because like WarioWare is designed to be like almost like a one button game. Like it's very Rhythm Heaven-esque. But because they all have like movement controls now, they're now just like really fast platformers.
They're cursors basically, or platformers,
Yes,
depending on who you're playing as.
Yeah, it's kind of almost a whole different thing, which by definition ended up being disappointing to me. I was looking forward to more of what I'm used to, and this is not what I wanted.
Agreed.
My number 3 was 12 minutes.
Fair.
Okay. Yep.
That had a crazy voice acting cast, kind of a cool look to the trailers they put out for it. And for all intents and purposes, people were talking not highly of it as a game, but highly of it as a concept, in that like it's doing some interesting stuff. And it does do some interesting stuff, but I don't think it doesn't stick the landing the whole way through. It has a lot of just mechanical jank and issues that made it kind of unfun to play in some parts. And all in all, it was just a complete disappointment, especially when you see other games this year even have come out doing kind of similar concepts with time mechanics, and they do it well. And 12 minutes is like easily the worst one of the year to do the time mechanic thing. Yeah, just disappointing all around. Community disappointment. That was your number 3 as well, right, Sean?
Yeah, we both had WarioWare.
Okay, so number 3 was Mario Golf Super Rush for the community.
This was on my list for sure when I was reminded of WarioWare, and then
I feel bad because it definitely was not on mine.
That game is, I don't like that game at all.
Yeah, jumping back a bit before WarioWare, I also forgot doesn't have any online co-op, which got pointed out in chat, and yeah, that also felt like it needed that. Yeah, sorry. Number 2 for most disappointing for me was Balan Wonderworld.
Oh, okay.
So you were looking forward to this.
So here's the thing. It's not that I was looking forward to it. It's the fact that now that I played through it, we did the podcast and everything, I recognize that it should be way better than it actually is.
I could see
I'm more disappointed that this is the end result is not what it should have been.
Agreed.
So you're
wasn't
like a
excited for it when it
teacher
came out.
saying like, I know you can do better than this if you applied yourself, and that's what's
exactly.
Me.
Alan Wonderworld needed a teacher in the room, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah,
this is me on every report card growing up.
I was like, you mimicked that way too well. But yeah, no, it really should have been a better sum of its parts, and it really wasn't. The dev team dropped the ball, even though the actual personality was there. The ideas were all right. The actual exploration's okay, but it's just marred by so many dumb decisions. It's just not an enjoyable experience when it really should have been, considering the pedigree.
Yeah, this is an honorary 2.5 for me now that you're describing it this way. I completely agree with you.
Just bummed Paul out.
Well, I was going to think of like, should I just like change my number 2 and say, yeah, I agree, I'm getting rid of my number 2, but no, I still want to say my second one.
What is it?
It's The Good Life, because I want Swery to do...
This is my number 2 as well.
I want Swery to do well. I just want the best things for him, and he's not going to do well if he keeps making bad games.
That's true. Yeah, no, you're right. The Good Life, Swery's great, but it's like The Good Life kind of finally cemented to me that I don't think he's the game developer I thought he was.
Right.
Because it's like the third one in a row that's just kind of a letdown.
Yeah.
But The Good Life takes it a step further. This game is aggressively hates you as you try to play it. It is so annoying and frustrating. Like every aspect of it. It doesn't look very good. The audio, there's like one line recorded for everything that you hear over and over again. It's fetch quest after fetch quest. Like it is hard to find anything interesting about this game. The story seemed interesting, but I couldn't get more than a toe into the story because I had to search around for a bunch of RNG drops for whatever the 9 task thing they needed me to do, yada yada.
I love that you couldn't even run either. So it's like it was even worse for you than normal.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out how to run, so I walked everywhere. God, this game it almost angers me how much I disliked this game. And I'm not alone. And I mentioned this on the TDP Plus podcast, is like if you look at the like percentages of people who got the achievements, it's like less than half got the first one, and then after that it drops to like less than 6% of people played over an hour of this game.
Yeah. The bummer, dude. Oh, wait, this was your number 2. Okay, community number 2. Grand Theft Auto Trilogy is what they put.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That's fair. Yeah, no, apparently those ports were really bad.
Yep.
I was not expecting to hear that on this list.
I actually had it on my list, and then I remembered something else and shuffled some things around. I had 2 games actually removed from my most disappointing, which I'm sure will come up later, and that was one of them. My number 1 for most disappointing this year was Mario 35 shutting down.
Yeah.
Why? It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Sure.
It was out for 6 months.
Yeah, no, I could see that's an interesting take on being disappointed at this game, but totally valid.
Yeah. I don't get it. I don't fucking get it. It makes no sense. Pac-Man 99 was all right, but like it just wasn't as interesting to me as Mario 35 was. I don't get it. They had such a cool idea and they just threw it away. I genuinely don't understand. So for me, that was a major disappointment because while that thing was live, it was a lot of fun.
My number 1 game, I didn't want to say it, but it was 12 minutes. You guys said all my games before I got to.
Yeah, fair.
12 minutes is so disappointing. I had to do a spoiler cast about it this year.
Yeah.
Because there's a reality out there where 12 minutes, a different version of 12 minutes is like my game of the year. Like that game was so cool. I've been looking forward to, I love the design of it. I love the concept of it. It has some great actors in it. And then holy smokes, it's like they punch you in the stomach and then slap you in the face. It's ridiculous. And like, check out the spoiler cast. It is complete nonsense what happens. Like the first half of that game is like totally fine. And then you kind of realize just what you're going to have to do for the second half. And that doesn't even include the nonsense story that is just beyond disappointing and ridiculous. Like, holy smokes. It's a great, like, I don't know, 1 hour. It's a great 45 minutes followed by like 4 hours of just tedium beyond belief, and that was extremely disappointing for the expectations I had going into that game.
Sure. My number 1 most disappointing was Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance, because that game was almost unplayable in the way it was released. The lobby system was absolutely fucking terrible, and it is meant to be a co-op game in the way that if you are not playing co-op, every enemy you have to do basically 4 times the amount of damage because they're expecting you to just have a full party at all times for the bosses. The level designs were bad, and this isn't even just, this is like just the game stuff that sucks. not even talking about the fact that like Dark Alliance, this is a spiritual successor to the Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance games, which were some of the best games on older consoles that I ever played with a buddy. Not talking about the fact that it's based on the Drizzt books, which is some of the best Dungeons and Dragons like lore and works ever written. It's, oh my god, what an absolute piece of shit that thing was.
Did you finish this game?
Dude, I didn't finish the 3rd level. I stopped playing. I couldn't do it anymore.
So I played all of this game.
Oh my
god.
god.
The whole game. I like co-op games.
But this is a bad one.
This is a bad sometimes when you play all the good co-op games, you need to start going down the tier list a little bit.
When you were done a mission in this game, it would disconnect the party, so you would have to rejoin.
I mean, at some point they did fix that, because it didn't happen every single time. But yes, they did fix some of the bugs. I will tell you that for sure.
Okay.
But I just remember the like final boss. You have to fight like 5 times in a row, because every time you take his health down, he just gets it back.
Every boss
my buddy
does that.
We're just going insane. We were like, "Are you kidding me again? What is this?"
Every boss does some form of that, to the point where it feels like there's a glitch in the game, and it isn't glitched. It's just that they're poorly designed. Just, yeah, wow, what a bad thing. Holy crap. Community most disappointing agrees with Sean. 12 minutes.
Oh wow, okay.
By like
Nice.
a decent amount too.
That game sucks. Holy smokes, that game is disappointing.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's flip things around a bit. This is basically the opposite of the last category. It's the surprise of the year. So this is something you went into with low expectations. It exceeded your expectations. In some way, it positively surprised you.
All right, my list is a little tweaked on that, because 2 of the 3 of mine were more surprises that they existed in the first place
Sure.
and came out. Because my number 3 for surprise of the year was Mario Party Superstars. Wow. After how many years of everyone complaining about Mario Party not being what they wanted, they actually gave us what we wanted. And it's actually good. It's got 5 classic boards that people like. It's got actually decent netcode. And it's got a lot of good classic minigames from the series. So if you like Mario Party at all, it just kind of appeared, and it was honestly better than I thought. I'm just really hoping that it gets DLC, then it would be even better.
Cool.
Okay.
So the surprise is that Nintendo listened to fans and made a decent online thing. You're right. That should be your number 1 surprise, because
that's a pretty big surprise.
That's
Trust
never
me,
going to happen.
my number 1 is in a similar vein.
Okay. My number 3 was Inscription, because I'm kind of sick. Kind of sick of card games, kind of burnt out on them, and I'm not gonna lie to you, Inscription doesn't do anything new or exciting with a card game thing, and there's a lot of card game in there, but the things that Inscription does do well, the atmosphere is absolutely insane. The oh my god, the twist it takes that I can't really talk about, because I want you to play it, because the thing that Inscription does well, it won't do as well if you know what it is and you haven't experienced it for yourself. But that game goes into weird areas, and there is a crazy ARG game that I didn't even know about until after I was like looking something up. Some dude online does like an hour-long video going into the ARG, and it is fucking insane in the way that like is maybe... It's like serial killer level stuff that this guy went to for the ARG, and it's awesome, but also like I'm glad I didn't waste a lot of time with that, because I don't understand how some people find that stuff out. Inscription is just crazy, and it kind of came out of nowhere. It was like shown off at the Devolver thing during E3 and came out a couple months later. Like, wow, what a thing.
My number 3 surprise is Halo Infinite. I'm
Nice.
in no way like a Halo guy. I really like Halo Infinite, and even more surprisingly, I played a lot more of the multiplayer than I would have ever expected. Because I don't think I played like outside of co-op more than maybe like a handful of hours of Halo multiplayer combined. I'm just enjoying it so much. I bought the battle pass like on the first day because I was like, I'm gonna give this the real try. Really glad I did it. They have their obviously like seasonal cosmetic events which are fun, but just the campaign itself is a total blast. And it's probably like my favorite Halo game. These are usually just like something I do in a weekend. I'm moving on forever. Halo is something I've come back to quite a bit. And the multiplayer has made me stop playing Apex as much as I used to, which is pretty crazy.
Wow.
Awesome. Community's third pick was It Takes Two.
Okay.
That's fair. All right, my number 2 for surprise of the year, Guardians of the Galaxy. Especially after how Marvel's Avengers was kind of received, I was like, I think this will be the better game because it's supposed to be single player and it's a different team. But at the same time, like I have very low expectations because of that. And then it turned out actually pretty decent. I don't care too much about the Guardians of the Galaxy outside of the movies, but that game just has so much personality to it. It just feels like those characters if you watch the movie and like them, and it plays all right. Um, Definitely has some flaws here and there, but overall, really enjoyed it and genuinely surprised with it.
Agreed.
Cool. My number 2 is Loop Hero. Again, a game that was just kind of like an indie darling to a bunch of people on itch, gets a release on Steam and just blows up, and is just kind of a cool, almost second monitor type game type thing, but like kept me really intrigued in it for a while before other things kind of pulled me away from it. Just a neat style of gameplay, kind of, I don't know, like lazy gaming, if this is a genre we can create, or like put games in where it just kind of plays itself.
Game? At that point, it's just an idle game. For the
it's kind of like an idle game, yeah.
Kind of idle, yeah.
It's a little more involved, but like not really also.
Is your whole list just going to be Devolver Digital games?
It feels, I mean, for surprises, it's usually the Devolver, presented by Devolver or whatever, for sure. Yeah, just a great game.
My number 2 game is Psychonauts 2. I think the big surprise here is just like how much of a home run that game is.
Yeah.
With the development hell that it had been going through for years and years, Double Fine getting purchased and the question around that, and then just having it all come together to be what Psychonauts 2 is. That game was a complete like delightful surprise from the beginning to the end. It is a ton of fun, and like I'm so glad it is doing well for Double Fine. I'm glad they were able to make kind of the game they wanted to. I'm happy to see that Microsoft is putting them to like good use and helps make this thing a really great game.
Cool. The community number 2 pick agreed with John. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Nice.
All right. My surprise of the year was Mario 35 getting canceled again. I'm kidding. Metroid Dread, another game that kind of came out of nowhere, specifically from Nintendo, and ended up being way better than kind of thought it would be, especially considering Dread was originally supposed to be a DS game way back in the day. So finally seeing that resurrected actually come out, it actually being a 2D Metroid game and actually being pretty good, was just all generally a surprise. Again, it was Nintendo actually listening to their fans and releasing it. And the funny thing is, there was an article going around, I think it was this week alone, an interview with the lead for Metroid, who said like, yeah, we only got to make this and greenlight this because so many indie devs were making Metroidvanias and they were doing really well. So it's funny that the creator of the genre had to depend on fans of the genre to get the original genre back, the original game from the genre back. It's just this weird mishmash, but it working out pretty good was definitely the biggest surprise this year.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Wasn't this Mercury Systems and they did Samus Returns?
This was Mercury Steam, yeah. And they did Samus Returns, yeah. But like that was just a remake, and while it sold well, like no one knew this was coming until like what 4 months before it came out, because it got announced at the E3 last year, and then came out in October.
Yeah, I was
and
surprised
Nintendo
to hear the whole...
Nintendo marketed this extremely hard. Like they've never marketed a Metroid game that hard. And I think it literally outsold, I think they said in Japan, it outsold every previous Metroid game in its first week.
Right. Yeah, well, you'd always heard that like Japan does not care for Metroid, so I bet that was not hard to do. The marketing, I'm not surprised because this was their like Switch OLED game, so they were also trying to market that new console.
Yeah, but
quote
still.
unquote new. So good for Metroid.
Yeah. My surprise of the year was The Rift Breaker, a game that nobody in the world is talking about, it seems, on podcasts about stuff that came out in 2021. But Rift Breaker is just a great action RPG mech game where you are colonizing a planet. And it just kind of came out of nowhere from, I don't know if you would call them like a AA studio or something. They've released some other games. I don't necessarily think they're indie fully, but they're definitely not like a huge name, Exor Studios. And I think this is just an absolutely super fun survival type game to play and just waste a whole bunch of time in, with a lot of cool building stuff going on in it. And a lot of good action and weird alien stuff. I think it's just one of the sleeper hits that I hope in 10 years people are like, oh, remember Rift Breaker? That thing was fucking dope. And then the rest of the world will say no. But yeah, I liked it a lot.
My number one was Guardians of the Galaxy, for a lot of the same reasons John mentioned. Avengers kind of put like a real sour taste in my mouth. And also, this game just didn't like preview very well when we were seeing trailers of it at E3 and various live streams throughout the years. It was completely flying under my radar. I should have given more kind of thought to who the developers are behind it, because they're a good studio, Eidos Montreal, and like the Deus Ex games are quality. So there's good devs behind it, but it was kind of a complete like left turn, sucker punch of, I was not expecting it to be as good as it was, and it was very good when it came out, so that was quite a surprise.
Sure. Community pick for biggest surprise by a decent margin as well was Mario Party Superstars.
That's fair.
Okay. All right, audio of the year, soundtrack, audio design, voice acting, whatever. If it makes a sound, it can be on this list. John, you're number 3.
I'm cheating on this one because this game basically was unplayable for about a decade and finally came back this year. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game. Anamanaguchi's amazing soundtrack. Comes back, still fantastic to listen to. That game's just a pleasure for the ears.
I do still have concert tickets to see them doing this soundtrack at the end of the month. I'm not sure if they're going to reschedule or if I'm going to go to that.
Good luck either way.
Yeah.
Yeah. My number 3 is Resident Evil Village. Half of the horror in horror games is the sound design. Resident Evil has always been one of the leaders in that ever since the first game, where they had to rely on it because of bad camera angles and stuff like that. Resident Evil Village is no different. It doesn't do anything necessarily like what I would say special, but just super solid. And yeah, that's one of the things it excelled in, I felt.
My number 3 is Unpacking.
Nice.
Unpacking is a fun little game where you unpack after you go through a move. And part of the charm of this game is they have totally accurate Foley sound for every kind of object interacting with every kind of surface you go on.
Yeah.
Developers came out and said they recorded over 14,000 audio files of things tapping onto others for when you place them down. And that's pretty crazy. And it just kind of adds to this great little game that is like chill game of the year. And yeah, the audio definitely helps.
Sure. Mario Party Superstars is what the community says for number 3.
Okay. Number 2 for best audio for me, Forza Horizon 5. This is my first Forza Horizon game.
Okay.
Lots of great soundtracks and radio stations there. The car sounds seem authentic and are pretty satisfying, honestly. It really feels like I'm using like exotic supercars, or I'm just using a dinky old like beat up Volkswagen for like when I'm running around like smashing trees and everything. Like it's just really satisfying to hear, and like I said, the music's good too to boot.
Right on.
My number 2 is Nier Replicant version 1.22474487139 ellipses or whatever. After
the
that,
remake of Nier, yeah.
The remake of Nier, yeah. Yoko Taro games music is like heart-wrenching. You spend so much time in that world with those characters, and they all kind of have their own different themes and music for things going on, that anytime I hear that stuff now, it's like a Pavlovian response to just break down in tears and not be able to do anything for the next 10 minutes or so. That game is just, the music is fantastic.
This just came to my mind, and it's not super related, but it's kind of related. I just want to listen to the soundtrack to 13 Sentinels again.
Sure.
Okay.
That J-pop.
My number 2 audio of the year is Death's Door.
Ooh, good
I thought the music was great. It has some really good boss themes, and like specifically when you get like a new power up and have to do the little challenge fight before it, there's a great music track that plays. It's this really swooping orchestral looking stuff.
That like builds as you go. It's great.
I thought this game sounded great.
That's a great choice. Community chose Final Fantasy 14 and Walker.
Okay.
All right. My game of the year for best audio, Cruisin' Blast.
Nice.
So this is a re-release of a Raw Thrills and Nintendo branded game that got released on Switch this past year. And it's all peppy, high energy pop music and like a bunch of like techno in there with some drum and bass. It's just a really weirdly satisfying high energy soundtrack, but it's also pretty condensed too, because each race is very short, but like even the main theme song's super catchy. It's just like a really generally good soundtrack to listen to if you want something to kind of perk you up and get a little bit of energy off of.
Nice. My number 1 feels like this game was made for this category. Kid Amnesia Exhibition. The Radiohead.
Okay.
VR experience.
Yeah. Well, first, I wish it was in VR, because that thing is weird and creepy in a way that I wish I was in it and not playing through it on a screen. But so like you have to be a Radiohead fan, obviously, which I am. And going into that thing just like gave me chills every corner, and just like the weird visuals and the music slowly, like you getting closer to the music and it getting like louder and fitting in with the visuals, just absolutely transcendent is the word I'll use. I've absolutely loved it.
All right. My number 1 for audio of the year is The Artful Escape. This game is all about playing music. It's about playing crazy guitar solos throughout the cosmos while you're becoming like a glam rock superstar on all these alien planets, and you're like battling other aliens on like huge speaker towers while you're just ripping guitar solos. You can play guitar solo as you platform around the whole place. It is a non-stop guitar solo. It is just a feast for the eyes and the ears. You can easily play through this game in like 2 hours. It's on Game Pass. It's worth checking out, I think. It's got a great it's an Annapurna joint, so you know it's got a great voice cast in there as well. Jason Schwartz. Highly recommended.
First place was a tie between Persona 5 Strikers and Metroid Dread.
Yeah.
All right.
That brings us to our Patreon game of the year. What's basically our top 3 games that we were forced to play through for money this year? John, what's your number 3?
For those who don't know, I'm going to read out the 12 games we did first, just so people know what we're pulling from.
Cool.
For December 2020, we played Bugsnax. For January 2021, we played Call of the Sea. February was Cyber Shadow. March was Iconoclasts. April was Umurangi Generation. May was the original Shantae for the Game Boy Color. June was Bug Fables. July was Backbone. August was Anti-Chamber. September was Super Mario Bros. 1 for the NES. October was Cookie Clicker, and November was The Good Life. Again, reminding people Balan Wonderworld will be on next year's Game of the Year, because we stopped at November rather.
Right.
Which means my number 3 for Patreon Game of the Year that we did this year out of TDP Plus, Cookie Clicker.
Nice.
Honestly, it's a guilty pleasure. like idle games and clicking games, they are majorly guilty pleasures for me. I've had a couple on my phone over the years. I've kind of had to stop them for a while because I was doing them a little too much. But
No
yeah,
longer
no,
idling.
Cookie Clicker is always a fun time. It's always fun just seeing how deep the rabbit hole goes, the weird stories about like blurbs about like grandmas taking over, becoming demons and stuff like that. And just all these other silly, weird things, and just seeing how far you can go is generally fun. So that's my number 3.
Cool. My number 3 was Umurangi Generation. This
is also my number 3.
Yeah, a lot of style, pretty fun gameplay. Maybe a little bit too short for my liking. Wish there was a little bit more in there just in general, but overall I really like the experience of it. I don't have anything like profound to say about it. It was just a fun time.
I'll say it's got good vibes. I like the look of it. I love the environments you hang out with, and like kind of the little bit of lore you can pick up from like the graffiti or the stuff going on in the background. It's a cool game. You don't even have to really be super into photography to get some stuff out of it as well.
Yeah.
I feel bad because I was super harsh on that game. I hated it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Hey, sometimes that's
why we do a podcast together, because circle jerks are boring. I don't have the community stuff for this.
You're right. I have the community stuff. The number 3 is a 4-way tie between Bugsnax, Shantae, Bug Fables, and Cookie Clicker.
Wow. All right.
Okay. My number 2 for Patreon Game of the Year, Bugsnax.
Me too.
Yeah. Fun game. Just a weird, cute, casual playthrough until you get to the actual story, and then you're like, what the fuck is happening? That game is full of surprises and is a lot more than it appears at the original beginning.
There's DLC coming up for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I want to play the DLC. I feel like it was just a nice, condensed, contained product. It's got to be something really special to make me want to go back.
I'm trying to remember if there's going to be like story stuff to it, or if they're just like giant Bugsnax or something like that, wasn't it? I can't remember.
Yeah, they're giant Bugsnax.
Right on.
Yeah.
Paul, that was also your number 2, you said?
Yeah, what a great thing that was.
My number 2 is Call of the Sea.
Nice.
I think I also picked this game, but it was just a really enjoyable little puzzle game, kind of Myst light like. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the puzzles, the levels. I think it looks really nice, and there's some cool different like biomes you go through. I thought the voice acting was really well done. And yeah, I think it's a good puzzle game.
Sure.
The community number 2 was Iconoclasts.
Okay.
Nice.
And that was actually my number 1 was
Same.
Iconoclasts. Excellent Metroidvania done by a pretty a decently known and good dev who's made some good stuff over the years. Iconoclast just has a good flow to it. It's got a weird charm to it, some pretty serious topics going on during it. And while it doesn't quite fully flow narratively the best, there's still some weird loose ends and some very why are you making this kind of decision with some characters. It was just an enjoyable experience. And generally a pretty easy to recommend Metroidvania.
Totally. Yep.
My number 1 was Bugsnax that you
Not
guys
surprised.
talked about.
Not surprised.
Bugsnax is, as you guys said, just super delightful and goofy and fun, and it was always great finding a new bug snack or like a weird giant one and being like, how do you deal with this? I still have some of those guys' creature calls stuck in my head at all time. Yeah, I'll never forget like the sandworm sandwich one, or
Sandipede.
Yeah, Sandipede, and the burger one.
Yeah, Bunger Bunger Bunger, as chat is also reminding us.
And Scooby Banoopy.
They're so good. And also just a great follow-up from the people who made Octodad.
Oh yeah, that team.
That's Young Horses is, I believe, the name of the studio, which is a great dev name, and they just put out just memorable games, and it's great.
Yep.
And the number one community game of the year was Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, come on. What? All right.
By a substantial amount. I don't understand. But
All right.
I'm sorry. As the Nintendo guy of the three, wow, guys, really? Really? As the guy who put Mario 35 on 2 of his Game of the Year lists, really?
Do
I
do
don't
you
know.
think the people that vote on that vote for our, like, they liked listening to the episode or just for the game? Or
I bet some people genuinely are like, yeah, no, I like this episode a lot. But I
Sure.
think some other people are just like, this game is one that I've played, so I will give it my vote.
I
Sure.
think in the description I put both of those as reasons why you should vote for it, so it's not
Yeah.
clear like why you would vote specifically. It could
I don't
be
even remember how the episode went, other than like me and
neither.
Paul like going on about like memories, and Paul and Sean saying like, yeah, I was terrible at this game.
You know what? I could
Yeah.
see liking that episode for that because it was almost just more banter than it was game talk in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I could see that.
I'm also thinking like if there's people who are voting on the poll, which by the way, like only a quarter of the patrons actually voted on it for
Oh.
whatever that's worth. But I do know that some of the patrons, when it comes to the polls, they vote on the game they've heard of, and I
Yeah.
bet this game has been heard of by more patrons than any of the other games. So there could
Well,
be that as well.
yes, it's kind of easy to have heard about Mario Brothers 1 at this point. Sorry, Super Mario Brothers 1.
All right, we're down to the big list. The reason everybody's here. We're gonna do a top 10, our games of the year,
Oof.
from 10 to 1. We also have the community 10 to 1 as well. And like we said, after we do our get number 2 games, we'll announce what you guys guessed would be each of our game of the year. John, please start us off with your 10th favorite game of 2021.
I'm gonna preface this list with a couple things. I felt weird about game of the year. Sorry, well, this is kind of important. I felt weird about game of the year this year, and I felt Paul and I were kind of also bouncing some things back before the cast too. I feel like this is a good list, but in a perfect world, probably wasn't actually my top 10, if that makes sense. I feel like my list would be a bit different if I had gone through a bit more of the pile of shame and honorable mentions. But like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean that's always how it works.
Yeah. But like I feel like normally I'm just like, yeah, like these are mostly how I feel. This one I feel like I don't think my number one's really my number one, but I don't have any choice in the matter, if that makes sense.
That might be, we might be feeling similar. I talked to Paul about this a couple weeks ago. This was the first year where a game did not jump out at me
Yeah.
as this is my favorite game
Yeah.
of the year.
Same.
But it was the
Yeah.
it was the first year where I had a hard time picking only 10 games.
Yes.
Like
I have a
my
lot of honorable
mention
mentions.
list, I think, is longer than it typically is when I do these lists. So like I definitely love these 10 games, but when it comes to like the top like 5, you could almost flip those around and I wouldn't be upset about it. Whereas I know last year there was like when it came to like Ghost of Tsushima, I was like,
Yeah.
I just finished my game of the year.
Yep.
Like that was it right there. Holy smokes. And stuff like that. Whereas this one, it didn't really jump out at me. And it was like, well, I think this is the one I had the most fun with. But,
Yeah.
you know, it could be a toss up.
Yeah. There's like that. Like, so in case in point too, I actually, my number 10 rotated like 2 or 3 different times till I finally settled on this one.
Sure.
My number 10 for the year is Blaster Master 03.
Nice. This is an honorable
Now-
mention for me.
Yeah, this was an honorable mention for me for a while, which is weird because I love this series, and I'm pretty sure 1 or 2 got my Game of the Year nod at like back in the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this is the 3rd game of the series now and the end of the trilogy. So the storyline with Jason and Eve and Fred is all done at this point. The gameplay is the best it's ever been.
Yeah.
They balanced out the Gaia mechanics. The overworld, like Metroidvania style, going back and forth, is in a pseudo returned state. But I generally did not like the ending of the game. It's a bittersweet ending and not the ending I hoped they were going to get, if that makes sense. So I was left a little mixed on it. But out of everything I did play this year, it probably did feel like it belonged in the top 10 no matter what, because the gameplay itself was solid. It was the conclusion to a trilogy I was really invested in, and yeah, it's still a good game at the end of the day. So my number 10 is Blaster Master 03.
Sure.
Okay, Paul.
I mean, Yeah, same thing. I deleted my list earlier today at work and rebuilt it from the ground up because I
Wow,
was
okay.
also having issues. My number 10 was a late edition because I finished it recently. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Nice.
Not because I love the gameplay. It gets a little stale at the end, like the actual gameplay part. But it's just fun to see where that story goes, and it's fun seeing this game's depiction of weird Marvel characters and monsters of sorts and like enemies and how it all kind of comes together in the end. I think the ending's pretty fun too. A fun way to do the ending. Just all in all, it was a super enjoyable time, and as I thought on it more and more, it just barely beat out some of the honorable mentions that used to be in the number 10 spot.
This game is also on my honorable mentions list and was like close to taking the number 10 spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I think the facial animation is fantastic throughout this game.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice in the end when you beat the second to last boss, there's this like walk towards the camera that's weirdly long and awkward?
Yes.
Yeah. What was up with that? It just
I mean,
super weird.
it's like the
I felt
victory
like I was
lap,
missing
right?
something.
It's
Yes, it just went on for like weirdly long. Like I felt like I was doing something wrong.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Anyway, my number 10 is Narita Boy.
Ooh, honorable mention.
This is
Wow,
a really
that was this year?
Yeah.
That was this year. This is a weird game. It's such a weird little like hack and slash platformer. It has but it has so much cool style to it. There's like a grunginess to its kind of like glitch film grain aesthetic, and that kind of goes hand in hand with the music. And then every now and then your like little kind of 16-bit dude will just do like a dance for whatever reason is going on, and it's like, so it like seems real serious, and then it's goofy, and then there's like weird flashbacks to like Japan in the 80s, and it's just such a strange game, but there's just something I really loved about playing through it, that it just had me hooked for like a week and a half.
Sure. I mean, it's an honorable mention for me for the same reasons. So, yeah. The community number 10 spot was Guardians of the Galaxy. Hey.
Right on.
Okay. All right, my number 9 for the year. Hot Wheels Unleashed. This came out of nowhere. I was only doing this for a promo stream and ended up actually loving the game way more than I expected because I realized it was just Trackmania, but with Hot Wheels. Generally a super fun game. The track creator's a little limited, but it's still, you can make some absolute monstrosities. It's just some goofy ass fun, and it does bring back memories of childhood since it's Hot Wheels and stuff like that. So yeah, easy number 9.
I'm surprised this wasn't on your surprise list, because this seems like it would really hit.
I was more surprised with what else I put on there.
Sure.
Yeah. Yep. My number 9 is Psychonauts 2.
Nice.
So I played Psychonauts 1. I didn't finish Psychonauts 1 back in the day. I played a decent chunk of it. I thought it was good. I had fun with it. I didn't think it was amazing or anything. I thought Psychonauts 2 was amazing in a lot of different ways. I thought it was just super engaging, fun gameplay. More importantly, just every area of that game is different enough that I've never felt bored going through it and doing stuff. I also don't have a collectionist, like a completionist or collection based brain. I will just leave stuff if it's not easy to get to because I don't care about any of that stuff. So I could see, this seems like the type of game that if I cared about that stuff, maybe I would have been more annoyed in some spots, but I went through it at a decent pace and I just felt it was fun the whole way through.
We're on 9, right?
9, yep.
Yeah. My number 9 is New Pokemon Snap. I had not played a ton. Yeah, it was. I had not played a ton of the first Pokemon Snap outside of my dentist's office. So I had always been wanting a new one so I could really sink my teeth into it. And we got a really good one that addressed all the problems people had with, like, the short gameplay of the first one. This one even got like bonus episodes or areas, I guess, as free DLC. There's a lot to play through in this one. There's a lot of good quality replay value. And it is just like a really like chill, good time of hanging out taking some pictures of Pokemon and throwing rocks at them so that they'll dance for you, and then taking a photo of that because you're a weird monster child. And yeah, it's a very good game.
Cool. Community number 9 was It Takes Two.
Nice.
All right, my number 8 for the year, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. You play a Ratchet and Clank game? This is Ratchet and Clank, but more. The loading on the PS5 is ridiculously fast, so they basically felt like there was no downtime between segments. The new characters are great. It has the feel of the classic games down surprisingly well, and it's still got that charm that it had even back in the first game, back in the PS2 era. So great game. Always a good time to go to a Ratchet and Clank game, and this one is up there with the rest.
I'll say this is my number 7. Yeah, this was a really great, platformer. It's a really good showpiece for the PS5. It looks so good. The audio is great, and it's really fun. Even all the side stuff is fun to do. Like, I pretty much did everything you could in that game. The areas are dense, they're fast, the momentum, and when you get like the glider on that like deserty planet, it's a lot of fun to play this game.
My number 8 is The Forgotten City.
It's also my number 8.
Nice. Okay.
Nice.
Whereas, I mean, we were both disappointed in 12 minutes, especially like for some mechanical stuff. The Forgotten City was a standalone game made by a dude and with help from a bunch of other dudes to make it kind of a standalone thing, because it was a mod for Skyrim or Oblivion, one of the two, Skyrim. I think, before. And he figured out how to do all the stuff that 12 minutes does wrong right. There's like a cool narrative device that you don't have to replay the big things anytime you do a loop, which is huge. And not only that, but like the narrative device in it, I don't want to spoil things necessarily if we can help it. Like, you can see it happening in real time as you're doing other stuff. And I don't know, just the way that story goes is absolutely crazy. The ending is fantastic because it gives you a moment with every character that you just spent a whole bunch of hours learning about, helping through this thing, and the like victory lap on it is absolutely crazy and awesome. There's twists and turns you don't really see coming, even though you probably know like some of these characters are shitty. You just maybe don't know how shitty they are. That game is just an absolutely fantastic surprise that I think everybody should play if they get the chance to. So good.
It is really good, and it's because it's only like 5 hours long. Like, it's totally like able to do in like a sitting or two.
Yeah,
it's on Game Pass, so like you don't have an excuse at this point. Yeah, as someone who was deeply disappointed with 12 minutes, this was like a warm hug. It was like, no, it's okay. It's okay to love time loop games again. Here, Forgotten City exists. It respects your time, whereas 12 minutes does not respect your time.
Yeah.
And like, for all the same reasons, like the characters are interesting, and you go into this thing and like, man, this is going to be so confusing with like, I got to learn like 15 different people's stories, but like, it remembers things for you. It makes it easy to go throughout. Like, there's a lot of hand holding where you need to have hand holding. And yeah, being able to like skip and to get back to like, hey, I need you, this guy, I need you to tell these 4 people something so I can get back to this chunk of the time loop without having to do it myself. Such a breath of fresh air after 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is just, the story is super interesting, and it is a really fun little like murder mystery you get to play for 5 hours.
And like, we're 12 minutes, you never really wanted to have to do another loop, because it's like, I just want to do this right because I have to sit through this whole fucking thing again if I do one thing wrong. In Forgotten City, they have like reasons why you would want to maybe do another loop to try different stuff out. They let you experiment. It's more sandboxy in that way. So like, there's a lot of discovery in there that feels natural and gives you that like aha moment. For example, there's a character that you meet at some point that you're like, oh, this dude's a bad dude. And you learned previously that this building collapses if something happens or whatever. So like, when you put together, oh, I could get rid of this guy without killing him by like maybe telling him to go check this out, or like there's little moments in there that you learn what is happening in this timeline so that you can play with it and actually feel like you're making a natural progression. I can't stop saying great things about that game.
Yeah, you also get to do the fun thing that rarely happens in these kind of games, where you can just say to the person, like, you can try and break it. Like there's a lot of good dialogue choice in there of like you just going to the first guy and being like, "Hey, I'm from the future, and you're stuck in a loop," and then kind of see how the game reacts to you just like saying, "No, I want to just mess with this and see what's going to happen," which rarely gets to happen in this same kind of themes throughout different media. Like you don't really see that in movies too much either. So it's fun that you have the option to try and break it and see what the game does.
The twist is so good too in that because it's like, oh, if I had taken it's the type of twist that if you take a second to think about it, you would have figured it out, but like it still hits
That's
you.
Right in front of your
it's great. Yeah. Number 8 for community was Resident Evil Village.
Okay. Fitting at number 8. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, my number 7 for the year, Forza Horizon 5 for the Xbox Series X.
Nice.
This was my first Forza Horizon game. Honestly, pretty fun. Now, I'm usually not big on open world games, but I feel like the few that I have enjoyed have mainly been where the traversing is the fun part. And when it's a racing game that you can kind of drive anywhere, that makes the traversing pretty fun and interesting. Like, it's just the whole thing's just a party. It's just nice driving around. You can just bump into other people, their drivatars, or just play in groups with friends. It's just a cool idea, and I really enjoyed it. So there you go, my number 7.
This is on my honorable mentions. It's a great Forza. I'm on the other side of having played them all, so it's a bit of diminishing returns, but it is a great Forza Horizon game for sure.
Totally. My number 7 is Metroid Dread.
Okay.
This is
also on my honorable mentions.
Sure. Metroid Dread, when in the initial list I made, was in the top 3, I think. And then I just kind of moved it around a little bit. And I feel comfortable with it here. I love the old style Metroid games. This is a return to form. The things I don't necessarily like about this game are the things that are kind of new to it. I don't like the Emmy stuff pretty much at all. I don't mind the like parry system and any of that stuff. I think that's fine. But like at the end of the day, none of that matters because this is more Metroid. They gave me Metroid in 2021 on their Nintendo console, and I was just absolutely crazy for it for a couple weeks there. Sean, your number 7?
My 7 was Ratchet and Clank.
Oh, right. Yeah, my bad.
Oh, right. Yeah. So our community number 7.
Community 7 was Shin Megami Tensei 5.
Not surprising. Good choice.
Yeah.
My number 6, and to be fair, I was going to be a little salty about this at first, but I guess I did put WarioWare in my disappointing, so I understand it. Mario Golf Super Rush is my number 6. Okay. I love the Mario Golf games, and this one was very more so multiplayer focused for content. And that was what I wanted, which apparently wasn't for most other people, and I understand why they were disappointed by it, but it was a treat for me. I had a blast with it. Love playing that. If anyone wants to play a game anytime and I have the time, I will boot it up right away. I just generally love that game.
Sure. My number 6 is Death's Door.
This is my number 5.
Okay. For a lot of the same reasons that I like Metroid for being a Metroid game in 2021, Death's Door is much more like a Legend of Zelda game in 2021 in the way it does a lot of things. Just the kind of giant open world exploration, go to an area based on what people are saying and what you think your mission is, and look around until you run into something. Biggest flaw, I think, of the game is that I wish it had any sort of map at all, because I felt like I was spending a little too much time lost in the main graveyard. Anytime I got to like an offshoot area, I was fine exploring that completely all the way through. But I did decide to go
I got lost quite a bit. I remember like the swampy area. Definitely got lost.
Yeah.
I did everything you could do in this game.
I did as well.
I got like every single collectible, every like boss, like true ending, absolutely every single thing you could do. So I definitely spent a bit too much time like searching like is there more I can do in this? Like, where is the thing? Yada yada yada. So a map would have been fantastic.
That's where I missed the map. Like, I don't think you necessarily even need the map if you are just gonna play through like the main story and just kind of stop whenever you're tired of it. But when you're looking around to see what area you didn't go to or whatever, that would have been really, really nice. I found myself getting lost in some, like, for long periods of time, sometimes like 20 to 40 minutes, sometimes just looking around for where I maybe didn't go, because there's no fast travel really either that's like good necessarily. There's checkpointing of some sort where you can go back to a hub, and then if you know which door leads to which checkpoint, you can use that, but there's no like quickly moving around the map or anything like that. Regardless, it's made by Acid Nerve, who made Titan Souls, which was one of my favorite indie like darling games of whenever that came out 5 years ago or something like that. And I was pleasantly surprised not only that this game is a super competent, super fun Legend of Zelda type game in 2021 made by them, but it also has ties to that game and has like callbacks and Easter eggs to it, and that ending is fucking awesome. I really loved my time with Death's Door.
Yeah, I think this game is super cool, and it plays really well. The combat is fast and it's snappy. I think the look of it is just great. They do some great stuff with color. All the bosses are really nicely designed in just kind of how weird and goofy they are. The art style is both like mellow and creepy, but also like silly at the same time in places.
Yeah.
I like the world quite a bit. Like there is some really cool aspects of that. And then you're just this like crow guy with a sword going around, and just like there'll be super serious cutscenes happening, but because you're a crow, you're just doing like the bird thing where your head's just kind of like twitching like a dumb bird, and that's just great to be reminded about. And yeah, Death's Door is so cool. Like I would Death's Door 2, please make a Death's Door 2, because I bet that's gonna like just knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
So my number 6, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Number 6 is Unpacking.
Oh, nice.
As I mentioned before, it's like this is the cozy game of the year. You're just gonna unpack a bunch of different houses. You're gonna organize your socks. You're gonna hang up your pants. You're gonna put some pictures on the wall. You're gonna put your Gundams up. You're gonna organize all the GameCube games by themselves and all the DVDs by themselves, not just mix it all up like some kind of actual psychopath.
Right.
And there's just kind of a lot of heart, and like the way it tells its story is also like pretty unique. Like you don't see characters, there's no dialogue, but by the objects you are unpacking and the areas you are unpacking into, you get a really well rounded idea of who this person that you're inhabiting is. And that was pretty unique. That is very like, you could only do this kind of reveal like this if it was a video game. And so this game was just extremely unique in that regard. And it's like an hour long. This is like a late night. You're just like on the couch with like the lights turned down low, just doing some unpacking, and it is a great time.
Yeah, agreed. It was a good time. Community number 6 was Persona 5 Strikers.
All right, my number 5, and this is one that I wish I'd gotten more time with, because I have a feeling it actually would have been even higher on the list. This is a game called Unsighted. Now, this is the game I think put on my list for TDP Plus for, I think it was either January or December. But this is a top-down hack and slash Metroidvania where you play as I guess an android equivalent, where you have to go around and try to figure out why you've lost your memory, and then where everyone else is, your friend slash lover, the doctor that created you is missing, and the power source to all androids has been taken over by humans. And as a result, every character in the game has a lifespan that is listed by their character. So your character has, I think, 325 in-game hours to live, and an hour takes just like a couple minutes. But so does every NPC in the game. And when that time runs out, they become what's called an unsighted, which is just an android that has no sentience and is just mindlessly trying to kill and get more of like the energy source. So if you take too long while playing the game or get killed too many times, literal NPCs around you will start going insane and attacking you. It's such a cool idea. You have to go around, like, going to these different bases. You get different weapons you can craft. You can get guns. You balance between the two. There's different types of rocket launchers and everything else you can get. It's fast-paced, parry combat. My only thing I hate about it is that it's stamina-based, and I do not like that as a mechanic.
This sounds great.
But this is, I'm going to say, Paul, I think this would be one of your games you should try out. I think you would generally like this game. But yeah, no,
Game Pass.
I just, is it?
Yep. I played
Nice.
like an hour of it over.
Yeah. No, generally super fun game. Like I said, I did not get far enough in it because of a later game on this list, but I have a feeling this probably would have possibly cracked top 2, if not first place, if I had given it enough time. And unfortunately, I got to it too late. But I'm actually probably going to play this game after the podcast is done, so I can keep playing it more. But yeah, really fun. Highly recommend it. Unsighted.
Man, I'm excited to jump into that at some point. That sounds real good. Man.
Sorry, one last thing before you go in. If you don't like the timer mechanic, you can just turn it off, which is also really cool.
Oh, that's really good, because I don't like that already.
Yeah,
but
fair enough. I like it because I like Dead Rising, so I like the idea of, like, oh man, I'm pressured to make sure I can do this correctly. And you do get items to extend anyone's life by a little bit. Like, you can add 24 hours to anyone if you find certain items.
That's okay then.
But
yeah.
and it doesn't seem to be too scattered out, but like the game even warns you, like, yeah, like, make sure you don't go too slow, because there might be actual NPCs you can meet in later worlds that are just gone because you got there too late.
Oh.
So it's an interesting thing. And you can go to any of the 5 locations in any order, so you can free roam and pick it. They give you like this is our recommended order, but this is like, you can do whatever you want. So like I said, I wish I dug into this more, because what I've played of it so far, I've really enjoyed. And if it's a stamina-based game and I enjoy it, probably means it's a good game.
Sure. Oh man, I gotta try this thing for sure. My number 5 is Resident Evil Village. Y'all know it was going to be on here somewhere.
Yeah, I knew this wasn't going to be your number 1.
Yeah. The game is really good. The first time you play through it,
there's a big lady in it.
So yeah, that part is one of the best parts of the game, just in the way you can tell Capcom cared about that part. The way that lady is
like really big.
I mean, you can tell that that's the part that like they cared about, and maybe wanted to like make the full game in that area at some point, because that is fleshed out in a way some of the other parts aren't, and that part is way too short for my liking. There is a lot of fluff in that game, I think, that doesn't work well in subsequent playthroughs. It's the best playing out of that and 7, obviously. You can skip cutscenes that you've seen a million times, so that automatically makes it better than 7 in a lot of ways, especially for replayability. But it just doesn't have like the charisma or spark that 7 did. It doesn't have necessarily anything special going for it in that regard. It has some decent combat stuff going on in it. The first time you go through some of those set pieces is really, really great, because you don't know what's happening, and then it's a little bit of a chore until you get to the next part. It has some cool characters that I think it wastes, and it more than anything is just a decent ending to a story for somebody in that series. But like, it's still one of my like highlights of the year. The lead up to it, I replayed through the Resident Evil games going up to it. I was hyped for like anytime they showed anything off on it. I was hyped for the demos. I was hyped to play through it the first time. I even played a little bit through it the second time and was like, yeah, okay, or whatever. Like, it was still a high point, to be sure. It's just, it had diminishing returns, but that's okay. Not every game has to be infinitely replayable.
My number 5 was Death's Door.
Oh, right. Okay. Number 5 for community was new Pokemon Snap.
Well deserved.
Yeah.
All right. 4th place for me, Mario Party Superstars. Again,
Nice.
You gotta like Mario Party for this to be high, but this is a really good Mario Party, return to form for the franchise. And like I said, the net play works surprisingly well. It's not perfect, but it's way better than I feel net play has been for most other Nintendo games. So yeah, really fun game. if you like Mario Party.
Sure. My number 4 is Nier Replicant. The re-release of Nier. It's not even necessarily just a re-release, because there is new content that if you only played that old one, you haven't seen. That was kind of a scenario apparently from one of the books to deal with Kaine, who's one of the best characters of that game. So I still recommend playing that game, even if you did play it 10 years ago or whatever. It definitely shows its age, especially if you started with Automata. It plays worse than that in a lot of considerable ways, but I think I like the characters more in this one. I think the stakes for me emotionally was higher with them, and it was just an absolute awesome time. I really, really liked this game, and I liked squeezing every second I could out of it, but I don't necessarily think I'll revisit it. Kind of the same thing with Resident Evil Village, but this was longer, and I think I enjoyed my first playthrough of it more in general.
Number 4 was Psychonauts 2.
Nice.
I had a tremendous amount of fun with this. I think it looks great. It plays great. It's a really good platformer with a lot of fun little areas to jump around and explore with all your different powers and whatnot. And the story is surprisingly deep. You go to some really interesting places with those characters. I think it's well earned, kind of the themes that they're touching on, despite being some pretty serious themes that you wouldn't maybe expect from what is essentially a beat 'em up platformer. The area with Jack Black, that whole kind of section is really nice. There's some great music in there. The just kind of visual design of all the different areas look so good. There's the whole dentist mouth area, which is gross. There's a whole hair area that's pretty gross.
Yeah.
And then the psychedelic Jack Black kind of thing is very cool, and how that all comes together. There's some really great moments. And just the story is really nice, and there's such good character moments all the way throughout that whole game. It's really great to see.
Cool. Community number 4 was Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. Now, a lot of people put just Bowser's Fury, and I think one put 3D World. So it's obviously the same product. I combined them.
Yeah. Sure.
Surprised on that, but all right.
Yeah.
I actually shuffled my number 3 and number 2 around just then, but I'm going to commit to it now. My number 3 is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really wish I had been able to put way more time into this. I did not get to finish this game, but it left such a strong impression on me that I felt it really needed to be pretty high on this list.
Sure.
I just love so much about it. I just really love that. Again, it's the Deus Ex team, because it's Eidos Montreal. So there's so many branching paths in certain cases. Certain stages and chapters can be done completely differently. And I got to experience at least both of those with the Lady Hellbender story, which was really cool. I just love the banter between the characters to a point. There's too much of it, but past the overwhelming point, it's still really good banter.
Yeah.
I love a bunch of those characters. I love Drax. I love Rocket, Groot. I love Gamora. I basically love everyone but Star-Lord. I think that might be one of the points against it, is that you have to play as Star-Lord, because he's the least interesting of the characters.
You didn't finish it. Star-Lord gets a pretty great moment in the back half of that game.
I think I like the Star-Lord more anyway, and I liked Chris Pratt's Star-Lord.
Yeah, no, I definitely like him more than Chris Pratt. I'll give him that. I will give him that. He's less annoying than I found Pratt's character, even though that's kind of the point of the character.
Yeah.
But no, this would probably be higher if I had gotten to play more of it, honestly. It actually was second, and I bumped it down. So, still, I'm hoping to play more of this in the year and actually get the full experience. It might be my 2021 game of the year next year. Who knows? But still a very solid game. When I played, and what I played left a good impression on me.
Yeah, you'll like it all the way through then. It's very good. Yeah. Number 3, right? My number 3 was Monster Hunter Rise. Came out early in the year. threw me off and left a bitter taste in my mouth when halfway through the year they're like, yeah, this is coming to PC in 6 months. So I stopped playing it because I'm like, I'm not going to do the same thing as I did with World and put like 400 hours into this and one thing only to put another 400 in on the PC. That's insane. But before they did all that bullshit, I was playing it on the Switch every night and just having an absolute blast with it. And I'm playing it now on PC as of this recording and having an absolute blast with it. It's such a fun game. Just exactly what the Monster Hunter series needed in updates to how you move around in that world and how the weapons work, the lobby system, everything about it is just top notch. It's one of the best games of 2021 for sure.
My third favorite game of the year was Inscription.
Wow, that's high. Okay.
Inscription is so cool. It is so memorable. I'm sure it'll definitely, like, out of these 10 games, be one of the games I remember for the longest.
Sure.
I like card game, so like that part was even fine on me. But just like the set dressing, the characters you come across with, the revelations about the characters you come across, it's all just so cool and weird and creepy and touching, and the FMV parts are strange and eerie, and the ending is dreadful and strange, and it is such a special little game.
Yeah.
That like I feel like you need to play it and you need to stick with it, and it is such a special little game.
Did you look into that ARG stuff at all?
A bit, yeah.
It's crazy.
I've heard things about it. It's crazy. That game just keeps going in some respect.
Yeah.
I'm definitely like I didn't play Pony Island, but I'm ready. I will play whatever his next game is. Like, you've got a fan, so
yeah, sure. The community number 3 pick was Psychonauts 2.
Nice.
All right, my number 2, and again, conflicted about this one. I did want to move this to number 1, but I think after some deliberation, I'm cool with where it is. My number 2 is Astalon: Tears of the Earth.
I've been playing this recently. It's so good.
It's extremely good. So this got released by Danjin Entertainment. I think it was Labs. I can remember the full name. It's like Labs or something like that was the team name that made it. This is an 8-bit style Metroidvania about a group of 3 adventurers that have go into a tower, the Tower of Serpents, to figure out why the water coming to their village is poisoned. And you have 3 different classes for the characters. You have a ranger who has a bow and arrow and can wall jump. You have a knight who has a sword, shield, and armor, and you have a mage that has like just a medium range spell casting. And it is just a solid, fun Metroidvania that takes about like 12 hours your first time through. They focus pretty well on each character. Like, each character has their own uses. When I started playing the game, I'm like, wow, I'm never going to use character blank here.
Yeah.
And then after going through, like, after beating the game, I'm like, wow, I used pretty much everyone pretty evenly, more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
So like, it's pretty well balanced. There's like one character I used the least, but that's spoiler territory. But like, it was really fun. I genuinely enjoyed it. When I took this past week to kind of go through games for Game of the Year discussion, I couldn't stop playing this one. So I went through, beat the main story, unlocked a bunch of the side modes, and then started the side modes. I'm like, I have to go play something else. Otherwise, I'm just going to be here. I honestly, this really felt like it should have been my Game of the Year, but there's just a bunch of weird glitches in the game when you're playing it. Like, I'm playing specifically the Switch version. I don't know if this is the case in the Steam one, but when you get enough orbs from the bubbles, the game slows down to a crawl. When some of the screen shake effects happen, the game absolutely becomes unplayable.
I turn screen shake off on every game as a default because it makes me ill.
You cannot in this game, which is another important thing to point out. There is moderate and full. There's no way to turn it off completely.
True.
Which is a bummer.
Yeah.
But there's not too many screens that have that issue. And I had another weird glitch where I would fall through ladders even after I climbed to the top of them. Like, normally when you climb a ladder, you just stand on top of it, but sometimes that wouldn't happen, and that actually got me killed a couple times.
Oh,
which was
weird.
frustrating. Yeah. Again, that might just be a Switch issue. but generally a fantastic game that honestly, this was just a passing conversation I had with Paul last week talking about this. Because he's just like, yeah, I heard this one was really good. And I looked it up, tried it, and got hooked immediately. So I highly recommend this. And again, it was really close to Game of the Year, except for just the small things here and there.
Yeah, it's an honorable mention for me because I didn't play enough of it. But every time I had to not play it because the 2 times I did play it, I ended up playing for like 2 hours and just losing time and being like, oh shit, I need to go to bed. Like, it is so good in the way that like I really like Trine, where you have the different characters to do different things, kind of almost puzzly Metroidvania way, but like obviously not changing through them as you play, but kind of at checkpoints essentially. It's just a really good dungeon crawler type thing though, where you have nothing, like literally nothing, and it feels almost kind of bad at the beginning. And then you start getting items, and different items do different things. Like certain characters can use certain items, and it kind of changes how they play. You get items to like unlock checkpoints better and faster and easier. Everything about that game is so well done from a level design standpoint. It's phenomenal, and I wish I had played more of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. My number 2 is one of those... Oh, that's Paul saying dumb shit again. Mine's a mod. This is a mod. This is called Resident Evil 2 Kendo's Cut and Kendo's Cut Uncut. So, what this is, it is a full... So, Resident Evil 2 from 1998.
This is also my number 2?
Yeah. Resident Evil 2 from 1998. It has a Claire scenario and a Leon scenario. This is a mod that has... a mod for both of them, and it is part of the same storyline to where a throwaway character from that game, Kendo from that owns the gun shop and dies like in the first minute of the original game. What if he lived and saved the day by using time paradoxes and magic essentially? And it is fucking phenomenal. It is so good. It is, first of all, it's built on one of my favorite games of all time. And it just like is really well written, some weird comedy stuff. Another time game, weirdly, now that I think about it, because it deals with going back in the past and like weird things changing. It changes cutscenes. There's a part where you play as a different character for a little bit. It is the craziest mod I think I've played maybe ever. And it was a high point that I don't think I'll forget anytime soon in gaming in 2021.
Right on. My number 2, fittingly, is It Takes Two.
Okay.
As you know, I'm a big co-op fan, and this is a really good co-op game. And even just kind of outside of it, this is a fantastic feeling platformer. Just jumping around as these characters, skating around, soaring around as them, felt so good and tight. I remember saying on this show that I would love them to like make a Mario game or just make a platformer, because this is just some really good feeling platforming. And on top of that, yeah, there's the whole co-op aspect with some like really unique and interesting ways to like be a team and do the co-op puzzles and the co-op battles and whatnot. The story's probably the weakest part, but that's fine because I was still just having a lot of fun in this weird Honey, I Shrunk the Kids-esque scenario going on with the parents turning into dolls and yada yada. And it looks really good. They put a lot of great work into designing these like weird ethereal worlds or small attic like worlds or the snow worlds when you end up in like a snow globe. And yeah, I had a complete blast the whole way through. It's like it's surprisingly long. It's like a 15-hour long game, and I think this might be like my favorite from Hazelight Studio at this point. So it was kind of hitting all the check mark boxes I would want.
Awesome. Number 2 for the community was Mario Party Superstars.
Okay, now Paul, you're going to reveal what the community voted for. Start with John. What did they think John's number 1 game would be?
So by a huge margin, people thought that John's game of the year for 2021 was Metroid Dread.
All right. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't want to make this my number one. To be perfectly honest. If this is dumb. I hate saying this. When I finished Metroid Dread, I specifically said I liked it, but I don't think a game of the year liked it.
Oh.
And then nothing else I played this year felt better. So by process of elimination, my number one is Metroid Dread.
Okay.
This is probably the first year where I felt like, wow, I don't want to make this my number one, but I really don't feel like anything else did it.
Okay.
And it's kind of sad in a way. But Metroid Dread, like, when it's good, is really good.
Yeah, it is.
Like, the exploration is fantastic. The game feel is really good. Like, when you get a flow going in this game, it just feels fantastic to go with. And I think that's why it edged out Astalon slightly, is because while Astalon is a great Metroidvania, it's still an 8-bit style one, so the flow for it is a bit more rigid. While Dread, you can just flip off walls, you can just slide, jump around. There's all these different tricks you can do. It's just really satisfying to play. I hate the Emmy segments. I think they're boring and pointless.
Yep.
I didn't like a couple of the boss fights, but like some of the best ones are like the final boss fight's phenomenal. I think that might be the best fight in the game, hands down.
Yeah.
And while it's also one of the hardest ones too, it's also like the most satisfying. Like it's just a satisfying game to play. But also when I was done the game, I didn't really feel the need to play it anymore, if that makes sense. Sure. And that was kind of why I thought like I was going to find something else that I thought would push it past it. Astalon got extremely close. Unsighted, if I had given it more time, also likely probably would have gotten close or past it.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of things in Pile of Shame. Actually, there's a bunch of things in honorable mentions that I marked off that, like, if I had played more of this game, I played enough to have an opinion on it, but not enough to rank, like, put it in top 10.
Sure.
I think any of those might have also put a dent in it and passed it, but as it stands, yeah, Metroid Dread's my number one.
Cool. Runner-ups, people guessed Guardians of the Galaxy, Hot Wheels Unleashed, Mario Party Superstars, Golf, Mario Golf, Super Rush, Psychonauts 2. Somebody guessed Resident Evil Village for you, and Yakuza the Remastered Collection.
Because I hated Biohazard. In fact, I actually had Pile of Shame for Resident Evil 8. I took it off because I remembered how much I hated 7.
Sure.
So.
Yep.
Paul, you're up.
The community guessed for me Resident Evil Village. I wouldn't say overwhelmingly, but definitely the majority. And my number one game of the year was Resident Evil 4 VR.
That's what I thought it was going to be.
So
right on.
It wasn't.
Do you have 3 different Resident Evil games on your top 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Paul, man. And here's the thing. Second place for the community predictions was Resident Evil 4 VR. So some people figured that was going to be it.
Resident Evil 4 VR was the second pick. Yeah. I don't like Resident Evil 4 very much. I kind of was just like, oh, I can't believe they're putting this out on just another thing when they announced it. Okay, fine. And then I watch a lot of people that play RE games, so obviously I saw a little bit of gameplay of it, and it was enough to make me buy a $400 headset made by Facebook and this game and play through a game I don't like, because the changes they make and putting you in it changes that experience completely, and it's one of my top things of the year, like easily. It's a fucking phenomenal what they did with that thing.
Nice. Do you have some runners up you wanted to mention?
Yeah, Death's Door, Inscription, Metroid Dread, and Psychonauts all were tied for kind of like a third place guessing. And then Deathloop, Nier, Pokemon Unite, and Endwalker. I mean, if I played Endwalker, it probably would have been up here, but I didn't, so those were the guesses for me. Sean, nobody knows what the fuck you like. Me included, to be honest with you, because there is one guess that you've already said. It Takes Two. Okay. It was the number one guess. And then there's a list of other stuff here that are all evenly spaced out that people just like were taking shots at. So what is your game of the year?
Most of these have already been set on his list as well, except for like 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember last year they guessed.
Oh, can I guess one?
They got it.
Can I guess?
Well, no, because I don't want you to guess it right. So let me say what it is.
Yeah,
and then you
okay.
can tell me what you would have guessed if
Okay,
it was off.
you go.
Again, this was a weird one, but I just kind of kept coming back and been like, I had a lot of fun with this game. I had a lot of fun with this game, and I played more of this game than probably anyone in their right mind should have played this game. But the game I
Oh.
had the most fun with this year
Yeah.
was Outriders.
Okay, yeah, no. I was
Wow.
completely wrong.
Wow, same here.
I was going to
Same
guess
here.
Tales of Arise.
Oh, and I kept thinking I need to put Tales of Arise on my top 10. Completely forgot to do that. I played all of Outriders, all of it. Like every expedition in the end game, they put out DLC of more expeditions. I played all of those to the point where I haven't beaten the last one because I have to keep grinding to pay more in-game currency to get to it because it's so hard to beat. But it is extremely fun Borderlands without any claptrap anywhere to be found. The story is completely useless. I could not tell you anything really going on in that story. You can skip it.
Yeah.
But the characters are fun. They're really cool. I played as the trickster, so I was just warping around the battlefield, slicing people with my sword, seeing their like skeletons come out of them. I like the loot game, and guess what? It's co-op, so it basically checks all the boxes for me. And I will cards on the table. This game was broken as fuck for like half the year.
Yeah.
It was complete nonsense trying to play this game sometimes, but we just kept coming back to it whenever they would patch it to be like, hey, let's see if we can keep going. And we kept going, and I played a bunch of this game and just had so much fun the whole time.
This is an honorable mention for me. It wasn't going to find any place on my top 10 probably, but honestly, I really fell in love with this game for about a month myself as well, even with it broken. I totally see what you see in this game.
There's an expansion coming out this year with more story content. I cannot wait to drop like $20 on that thing.
And to skip all those cutscenes. Yeah, I'm with you.
Exactly.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely.
I did the same thing.
All right. What was unsurprisingly the #1 game of the community?
So the way these are scored, right? The #1 is double the amount #2 had. And in fact, to beat it number-wise, you would have to double #2 and then add 3 and 4, rank 3 and 4 all together, and you would barely beat it. Metroid Dread won by one of the biggest landslides we've seen in a while.
Yep. Makes sense.
Yep.
Makes sense. Those are all some great games. And now we'll do the honorable mentions. We won't spend as much time, but here's a few games you want to shout out for one reason or another. John, do you want to read a few of yours, and we'll do a kind of handful each?
I got 6 total here. I got 3 that I knew weren't making top 10, and 3 that I wish I'd played enough to make them in the top 10. So I'll do the 3 that I knew weren't going to make it. Axiom Verge 2.
Sure.
Kind of a little bit of a disappointment, honestly. It didn't grab me nearly as much as the first one did, but it's still a solid game. It's still Axiom Verge. Like, the exploration's good. I just didn't like the shift to melee combat. It just doesn't feel as fun and tight because of it, but it's still got that weird adventuring. It's still got that sense of wonder. And while we didn't wrap it up because Reese and I were playing it together, we were still enjoying it no matter what. So I've also got Earth Defense Force World Brothers. They took the Earth Defense Force formula and made it a bit more kid-friendly because they're all voxel figures this time around instead of like more realistic-looking characters. It's just really fun. All the characters are super over the top. It has characters from like character types from older EDF games, and then there's just a bunch of weird, random, cartoonish-like characters like the London soldier who summons like Royal Guard statues to start firing things. The Holland soldier that summons like heat-seeking windmills that fire like tornadoes at enemies. It's just really, really goofy and weird, but it actually still controls like EDF, and it's really fun. So every person in a room gets to pick 4 character types that they can switch with on the fly. And yeah, so you can have like a flying character, like a heavy explosions character. It's just really fun, weird balance. I also have on here Loop Hero. I really enjoyed it a lot, but again, kind of didn't dig into it too much, and it was an idle game, which was still really neat, but still kind of an idle game is the trade-off.
Sure.
I'll do the other three when it comes back to me.
Yeah, Paul, do you want to give a handful?
All right. I guess like on the low tier honorable mentions I have here, Necromunda Hired Gun is more fun than it deserves to be, being a Warhammer game that is a Doom clone. Not a great Doom clone, but I mean, it was still pretty fun. Subnautica Below Zero. Didn't have as much fun as I did with the first Subnautica game, but Below Zero was a decent follow-up. It has some ties to the first one. It has an okay story going on for as well, and it's just, there's not too many games out that are doing that style of survival games, so it was just kind of a treat to jump back into that because that officially released. I put Bowser's Fury on here because I had a lot of fun with it for that weekend, and then forgot it existed until Game of the Year came around, but I still had a lot of fun with it that weekend. The Ascent was a broken piece of garbage at some points, but when it was working, I thought it was really cool in its art style, in the way that thing looks. It's absolutely fantastic with like the ray tracing and high def and all that stuff. I think the world is good, and I like weird cyberpunk dystopias.
Yo, I just beat that game. It's still broken as shit.
Yeah.
But I finally they finally patched the one broken mission I was on so I could get through the rest of it. It's a strange game.
Nice. What about you, Sean? I have about 2 more handfuls I can do.
Sure. The ones that we haven't mentioned, The Wild at Heart is a really cool Pikmin clone with a fantastic art style. The Artful Escape is a really good, like, 2-hour experience of great visuals and great audio. The Great Ace Attorney probably would have made my top 10 if I had played more of it. I'm on the final chapter of the first game, so I'm just under 50% done the whole collection. But for like $40, getting 2 Ace Attorney games, that's a steal. That is absolutely incredible. Returnal is a really cool game. It looks good. It controller wise feels good on that PS5. I'm just so bad at it. I did not get far enough, and I don't think I'm going to play more of it because it's so hard. Every time I think about going back to it, I just don't want to like bang my head against the same opening area.
Sure.
John, your other 3?
My other 3, these are 3 games that I did play, but I did not play enough of them to feel that I could comfortably put them on the top 10 list. But if I had, I do feel like these 3 would have actually made it into the top 10. Unmetal. This is basically Metal Gear Solid, or I guess NES Metal Gear meets Hot Shots Part 2. Mm-hmm. Your character is basically a parody of Solid Snake and oh shoot, I can't even remember the actor's name. The Tiger Blood dude from 2.5 Men.
Yeah, I can't remember it either.
Yeah, but either way, like he's basically like
Charlie Sheen.
Yes.
Yeah, Charlie Sheen. Yeah, he's basically okay. Charlie Sheen. But also if he was Solid Snake, which I guess was who he was in Hot Shots Part 2, basically was Rambo. It's just a parody Metal Gear game where it's all like comedy. Like the dialogue is actually really funny and really well written. The combat is basically like the original Metal Gear games pre-Solid because it's top-down 2D. It handles really well, especially if you like that kind of game. And the writing was funny, made me laugh. I just didn't get far enough to really put it comfortably on the list. Deathloop. This is one that I was disappointed I did not get far enough into. I really feel like this also would have done to the top 10 or done really good. But I had one long session with the game and then just never came back to it again. I love the style of it because it's got that 60s aesthetic, the go-go aesthetic, which is also like spy and James Bond style, which I love. The characters are fun. The ones I did get to meet, I just didn't get to dig into it enough. And the last one I have on here, which is really disappointing I didn't get far enough to make a proper decision on this, No More Heroes 3.
Oh, yeah.
I love the first 2 games, and genuinely, I forgot the third one came out this year. I played a tiny bit of the intro. The combat feels way better than I remember the others being, and I've heard that that's the major improvement they did with it. But like the story was kind of meh, which felt weird for a Suda game, at least the bit I got, and it just didn't quite grab me the way I hoped it would. So, but again, didn't play it enough to make the full decision on that. So that's my honorable mentions.
Nice. I'll just do Chris Tales. Another time game, weirdly. I was just kind of not in the mood for an RPG when that came out. It also came out at a time when I was playing some other stuff. I did get, I think, 4 hours in, maybe 5, and it's like only a 20-hour game. So I got a chunk in it. I really did like my time with it. I need to revisit it, and I'm looking forward to revisiting it. I just haven't yet. And yeah, that thing looks amazing and plays pretty decently, has some cool ideas in it, but it just couldn't crack the top 10. Same with Everhood. Everhood was on my original top 10. It moved around a lot. Other things took its place. I thought Everhood was super interesting in what it did with its kind of rhythm-based dancing mechanic to like tire bosses out or just survive, almost like an Undertale in a lot of ways, and how it's written and stuff as well. And then it just kind of left my list because it didn't have enough there for me to be like, oh, this is one of my top 10 games of the year, just because it had a cool idea, even though that idea was cool. Gunfire Reborn came out. That is a first-person cartoony roguelike type game, based on just shooting stuff and seeing as far as you can get and all that sort of stuff. It's fun. Nothing crazy to say about that. Kazan and the Wild Masks, good Donkey Kong-like game, too short. It's pretty much why it didn't make it anywhere. I think it's a great game. I think it's too short. And Halo Infinite was very close to being on the top 10 multiple times, but it just kept getting edged out in my mind.
It's a good one for me to start with. Halo Infinite is a lot of fun. That's on my honorable mentions. I'm still playing it. I'm still going through that campaign. That is quite a product you get if you have Game Pass. Sable was very much near the bottom of my top 10 list for quite a while. That is a really cool Breath of the Wild on like a miniature scale game, real chill, with a fantastic art style. Guardians of the Galaxy is another similar one that was very close on the bottom of my list. Mm-hmm. Genesis Noir is stunning to look at. It's the Big Bang if it was like shot out of a pistol in a murder mystery. Everything's jazz. It is such a weird concept that I think this game is worth putting like an hour into just to see something totally unique in the video game space. And then last, I was completely forgot about Tales of Arise, which probably should be somewhere on my top 10 because that game was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was a little surprised. That's why I thought it was maybe your number one, because like I was like, this is definitely on his list somewhere, probably. But yeah. And John's done, right?
Yep. And that was the end of mine as well. So if you want to finish up, Paul.
So the last handful are basically ones that were at some point on the top 10 and then just got moved down. Them and Us and Tormented Souls, both two survival horror games that are made by indie studios in the vein of old style survival horror games. Them and Us, much more like a Resident Evil 4 type game style. Pretty cool, pretty janky. Tormented Souls, like an original Resident Evil, like the Resident Evil remake, much better in what they were trying to do, but both of them I just really adored for different reasons. Just couldn't crack the top 10. Kena Bridge of Spirits was absolutely fantastic. Too short, looked great. Great music, great sound, great gameplay. A little frustrating at times trying to figure out what the fuck the game wants you to do, specifically with the last boss. But I mean, that thing just looks absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to see more from them. Nier Reincarnation. Yo, it's Nier stories and that Nier universe on your phone. So they are all sad and they never end well for the protagonist. But man, I loved going through it. I'm not done going through them yet, but I still find myself going back to it every now and then, especially when I just want to chill out for a little bit. And then the last one I have here, I added as we were talking because I was thinking of phone stuff. Rocket League Sideswipe has been fantastic. That was really good and worth mentioning.
It's surprisingly good.
Yeah.
I don't think honorable mentions is a community thing, right?
It is not. No.
Okay. And next category is Pile of Shame, presented by John Wheeler. This is the list
Yep.
of games you wish you had gotten to this year. For one reason or not, they're still in your backlog somewhere.
I have 8.
Mine went up to 17 since I've been here.
I have about 8. John, do you want to give us a handful of them?
Yeah, figured as much. All right, I'll go like 4 at a time, I guess. Let's start with the one that I definitely think would have been in my top 10. Psychonauts 2.
Sure. Yeah.
Really, really wish I had gotten into Psychonauts 2 because I love that first game. Genuinely enjoyed that game, but it just didn't line up. Just did not line up at all. I had access to it. I have Game Pass and everything. Just never lined up. So here's hoping I'll get to touch that one eventually.
Yeah.
Ys 9. I forget what the full subtitle is, like Nox something something, Nox Machina or something like that. But I've heard this is an excellent Ys game and actually very Metroidvania-ish. I've heard a lot of praise for this one, so maybe hopefully I'll get to dig into that one at some point. Persona 5 Strikers. I loved Persona 5. Played through it with Reese, had a great time. Installed this one to play it. The install corrupted. I had to reinstall it. And in the time process it took me to get to that point, didn't want to play it anymore. So thanks,
Sure.
Modern Gaming. I ended up moving on to something else. So maybe I'll get back to that at some point. And Bravely Default 2. I love the first one, or at least 3/4 of it. But yeah, I didn't finish Bravely second, and something tells me Bravely Default 2 would have had a similar issue. So
don't do it. It's not worth it. Just read a wiki. It's not worth it.
Monstrum Nox was the Ys 9 title, by the way. I couldn't remember
it. How much? Just a couple, I guess. I'll do.
Whatever.
So ones that you guys have actually talked about in some way or not. Hot Wheels Unleashed. I really wanted to play at some point because I love Trackmania and that thing looked dope as hell, but I didn't want to pay like the $50 Canadian or whatever it was for it. And then when a sale came along, I just didn't even think about it. It completely lost my mind, or I just completely forgot about it. And Unmetal. I mean, it's still on my list to play. I really want to play that thing. I just didn't get around to it.
A few for me. Chris Tales. This was almost on like my disappointing list because I was so excited for it, and it launched completely broken on Xbox.
Oh yeah.
So I barely got to touch it, which was very disappointing. But and then as it got fixed, it was an RPG, and my time got shorter. So I do hope to return to Chris Tales. There's a game called Lake that is on my high to play list. This was added to Game Pass pretty recently that I've heard some cool things about. Jet the Far Shore. I was eagerly anticipating this, and then I heard kind of middling things about it when it launched. So at this point, I'm kind of just waiting for a sale / some time to open up, and I will check that out. And probably my most to play game is Kena Bridge of Spirits.
Okay, yeah.
I did pick that up over the break on a sale. So as soon as I clear some stuff that needs to be done on a time schedule, I am going to play that game next.
Why don't I give you 2 community ones, Resident Evil Village and Ratchet and Clank.
Nice.
Yeah. Back to me. Returnal. Now, I actually had intended to play this, but every time I sat down to play this, it either took too long to install, or there was a patch to install instead, which took up time. So every time I tried to play this damn thing, something got in the way, and it just got pushed aside. I think eventually Ratchet and Clank eked it out, and I just played that instead. World's End Club. I forget if this is done by the writer for Virtue's Last Reward or for Danganronpa, but I'd heard this was
Danganronpa.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a slightly more lighthearted version, like that style of game, and it's apparently pretty good. I just never got around to playing it. Guilty Gear Strive. Now, this was a tragic one for me because Guilty Gear was like my favorite fighting game in university, basically. We played a ton of Reload back then, but the X-Ards I just never got into, and then Strive I heard was good, but again, just never got into it, so it just kind of sat aside. Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights.
Yeah.
I heard this was an excellent game, Metroidvania, again, pseudo-stamina based, or I think this might just be ammo based instead, but I've heard fantastic things about this, just never got to it. And I'll throw in Death's Door. Again, I heard phenomenal game, especially when it came out. I even tried to sneak it into game clearing on streams because I figured that people had heard about it. It was getting so much praise at the time. And in the poll I put it in, it got the least amount of votes. So I kind of gave up on trying to get the stream to play it or play along with me. And it got put to the wayside.
Good job, chat. Look what you did. You made John cry. Sable. There was no reason I couldn't play this. It was on Game Pass. I just installed it and didn't. And then I uninstalled it at some point because I was like, I'm not going to get to this. Same thing with Axiom Verge 2. I just didn't get to it. And then people were saying some kind of like things about it. I was like, oh, I'm really not going to bother then. So, and then I have a list of games you still should play. And then Pile of Shame. I just moved that right over to Pile of Shame when I heard like middling reviews for it. I'm like, I have too many things that seem good to waste time with something okay at best.
Yeah, Axiom Verge 2 is still good, but it is definitely, in my mind, not as good. And you can kind of feel it right away of just like, oh, why'd they go in this direction instead? It's hard to explain without just
spoiling.
Down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
My last 4 here: Overboard, which is a mobile game where it's a murder mystery whodunit, where you are the murderer and you need to talk and sneak your way off the ship without getting caught. I bought this on my trip in Utah, totally planning to play it, and it's been installed on my phone just sitting there. But I've heard fantastic things. The Ghost of Tsushima DLC.
Oh no!
I bought this the day it came out and have not touched it. And it sits there on my PS5 mocking me.
Yo,
every day.
It's real good.
I know, and I think about this DLC at least once a week.
Wow. All right.
Lost in Random. This game just looks real cool. I like that publisher, Thunderful. I want to play this quite a bit. And the last game on my pile of shame is Solar Ash. This game looks cool as hell.
This is on mine as well. It's actually been installed since it came out. Yeah, I just haven't played it as well.
That's my pile of shame.
All right. I still have Fist, Forged in Shadow Torch. I believe this was the Metroidvania with the Anthro characters. I think there was a rabbit that had a giant mechanical fist.
You're right.
I heard mixed things about it at first, but I thought it was generally considered positive. I don't remember. I think you talked about it a little bit, Paul. At one
In a year of amazing Metroidvanias, it's okay. So
then that'd be it. Yeah. So it's still a good game, but just there was a lot of really good Metroidvanias this year.
There was a lot of really good ones, and this is totally okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deltarune Chapter 2. Played through Chapter 1, loved it. Just didn't have the time to get into Chapter 2 when it got announced. That's just what it is, but I've heard good things. Now, I put this one on here, this next one, but I guess it's kind of getting dealt with this month. Neo, The World Ends With You.
Yeah.
I love the original World Ends With You. I was excited about a sequel. Didn't have the time to play an RPG when it came out. It got put to the wayside, but we have to do it for January for TDP Plus, so I guess that goes off the pile of shame now.
There you go.
Yeah. Halo Infinite. Really loved Halo back in the day. Just everyone was praising the multiplayer and the single player for this one. Just never got around to it. It's installed. I think that's the disc sitting in my Xbox currently, but it is. I have not turned it on. And then there's these 4 I added on during the podcast because 3 of them I forgot even came out, and 1 I forgot I had but just never started. Inscription.
Yeah.
I had been interested in it because I played Pony Island and I liked it, but just never got around to it. New Pokemon Snap. Genuinely forgot that came out this year.
Yeah.
Definitely thought that was 2019 or 2020 rather. It Takes Two. I don't have a co-op partner for it. But I loved Brothers, which was the first game that studio did. But I skipped A Way Out.
You don't have a co-op partner for it. Your wife is a video game streamer.
Yeah, but I don't think she wants to play it.
Okay, I'm just saying, like, you seem out of all of us to have the most co-op partner.
Here's the thing: we don't play games together that much. When we do, it's one of us watching the other play. Traditionally,
okay,
sure.
It's very rare we play co-op games. It's usually we'll just co-op a single player game.
John, let's play that together. because I had the same problem. Actually,
Yeah.
my problem was I wanted to play it with my girlfriend. Then people were like, "Oh, you have to kind of be comfortable like with gaming to play this." I was like, "Oh fuck." Like you have to be kind of comfortable with it. Let's do it together.
We'll
'cause
figure something out for sure.
Same problem.
Yeah. And the last one I wrote on here, Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon. That came out at the very end of the year. Fun puzzle game. I even got an early release code from Yacht Club and didn't get around to playing it because I was in the middle of going through a personal crisis. So,
Sure.
so yeah, it got put to the wayside. That's my pile of shame.
My final stuff on Pile of Shame was I was saving It Takes Two because that was like the one I was actually like, fuck, I wish I had played this one at some point, but it just kind of kept getting put off. The Artful Escape, not even really because like I really wanted to play it, but the way Sean's talking about it, he's made me want to play it. So that's one.
It's a fun experience. Yeah, it's cool.
And a game that I'd be surprised if anybody even listening knows what it is, called Eliza, which is a weird indie PlayStation throwback survival horror game on itch.io. Oh, I guess it's on Steam now too, actually. That plays like Resident Evil in a dollhouse.
Oh, I'm familiar with this game.
Yeah, it's on your Pile of Shame as well.
Well, all right. Yeah, no, you're right. There it is.
Yeah. Community top 3, Deathloop at number 3, Neo The World Ends With You at number 2, and It Takes Two was their number 1 for Pile of Shame as well.
Quality games that you guys didn't play.
Yeah.
All right, and our final category, John will start us off. What is your 2021-2022 game of the year?
Here's
For those who don't
thing.
know, this is a game that is coming out in 2022 that John is going to guess that it will be his game of the year this time next year.
So here's the thing. I actually wasn't sure what was coming out next year. Genuinely did not kind of care.
Sure.
So I hadn't filled this part out because I forgot. So I'm like, I'll just look it up during the podcast. And then I found a site that lists a bunch of the things that are assumed to be coming out next year, but might not have a date. And I'm like, oh shit, I got like 6 games on here.
Pick one, man. That's how it works. You got to pick a game.
Well, here's the thing. So if this game doesn't come out next year, then this is a waste. But like,
yeah,
I got 2 games. So I'll just say 2 games. One that I believe for sure is coming out next year, and one that is a long shot. Long shot, Breath of the Wild 2. If it comes out and is as good as the first one, then yeah, that's game of the year easily. But one I know for sure is coming out next year, unless it gets fucking bumped again. Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge.
Oh, nice. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's the 4-player beat 'em up done by the Streets of Rage guys, and yeah, that looks like it'll probably be pretty good. Special shout-outs as well on here to Sea of Stars, which is by the Messenger team. River City Girls 2, Metal Slug Tactics, and of course Bayonetta 3.
Oh yeah.
And do you have your guess from last year?
Yes, I do. It was Cyber Shadow, a game that I actually originally had on my most disappointing list, but removed it. So
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Paul.
So I am really hoping Elden Ring sticks the landing, because if it does,
what I was guessing was yours.
It's so close, like it has to be, right?
I hope it sticks the landing, man. Not even for like release, just like, I hope this is as amazing as like I think it could be. It was a hard choice though between this, and I'm really excited to see what Project Eve ends up being, because that looks basically just like weirder Nier, if that even can exist. But yeah, Elden Ring was definitely the one that I'm putting my chips behind.
And what was your guess last year?
So I don't know, because I have like 5 written here. I don't know which one I chose out of them, because I didn't like bold any.
This is why you write down a game.
Yeah.
This is probably why, like, I'm doing the same thing this year. I'm doing the same thing. I got 6 games written down, but I've got like if it comes out, otherwise, and honorable guesses. So I'll have these notes for next year.
Yeah, take good. Well, what did you think you guessed, Paul?
What are the games? Just say the games, and then we'll probably remember.
So like this is a funny part, because they're all games that I could have guessed this year. They're Horizon, They're God of War Ragnarok. They're like all the games that got pushed back. So, Village was on there as a guess, and I'm probably assuming out of these that I guessed that would be.
You probably guessed Village, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so at least yours was on your top 10.
Sure.
So my guess for 2022 is God of War Ragnarok, knowing that the last God of War was my game of the year.
Yeah, okay.
So I feel pretty
Fair
confident
guess.
there. My last year's one, and I remember I didn't even need to look it up, was Ratchet and Clank, and that was on my top 10.
Oh, there you
Nice.
go.
Okay.
So I'm the one who did the worst out of the three. Fantastic.
Yeah. All right.
Do I even need
some
to
predictions?
Do I even need to tell you what the Community 2022 one is? Because you
It's Breath
probably
of the Wild, too.
it's Breath of the Wild, yeah. Elden Ring is 1 point behind it though.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
I would have thought like Pokemon Arceus.
that's not on here at all.
Huh. All
But
right.
Pokemon fans can be fickle.
I will also say this is the one nobody voted on, essentially. Like, I think we had 38 total like people submitting.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there's like nothing in this list.
Yeah, I think we had like total 38 number of people. Like, there's less than half of the people actually guessed this on this list. So
Yeah, like
Weird.
there are like the first place option, Breath of the Wild 2, 6 votes. Elden Ring 5, Dying Light 2, 3, Horizon Forbidden West and Mario and Rabbids 2, 2 votes, and then there's a bunch of ones like God of War Ragnarok, Kirby the Forgotten Land, Splatoon 3, Star Ocean, Starfield, Suicide Squad, King of Fighters and Tunic, and Forspoken. I think that's all of them.
yeah,
Project Eve.
weird.
All right. Let's do some predictions. Paul, do you have the old predictions? Let's see how correct we were.
I do. I'm just opening up a new sheet for the new ones we're going to be making. Okay.
Let's visit the old ones first.
So, predictions for 2021 as of 2020. Switch hardware revision? ? Are we going to get a Switch hardware revision? We all said yes.
Well,
Now-
we did the OLED. It's not the Pro Switch, but
So-
it is a hardware revision.
So yeah, here's the thing. We're all right. It got a revision because there's a follow-up to this. What gets enhanced? And we all said bigger screen, which is correct.
Yep.
Sean said 4K output. And I
Nope.
said Bluetooth.
So you're right.
And John said just bigger screen.
Oh.
So he was like
You're
the most
right and wrong. It wasn't a hardware revision, it was a software revision.
No, John's like the only one that's actually right because it's just a bigger screen and that's the only thing he put.
I think we should push that one forward and ask it again.
Oh God, here we go. This is
That-
the one that keeps sliding every year.
I feel like it counts though. Like it's totally relevant.
This is the okay. I've made a decision. This is the year I am not. I'm gonna say no to there being no new hardware revision for the Switch, simply because that will actually make the damn thing release, and then people will stop asking about it. So I'm gonna say
Okay.
no.
No Switch. Okay.
I'm going to say yes.
I say yes.
Put
And-
down why I'm saying no. Put down
Okay,
why I'm
okay.
saying no, because I will forget about this.
Okay, so no.
Yeah, it's true.
This way maybe it'll happen. I'll
Okay,
put
Paul, you have to. Do we even really need to like say what the changes are? Because I'm still gonna say 4K output. You have to pick a new one though, because yours came true.
wait.
Me? Oh, battery life.
No, Paul does.
Oh,
I have to pick a
Just
new
picks-
one?
No, you have to pick like a new. What's going to be new about the revision
Oh.
because yours came true.
Gotcha. I'm gonna say new dock with 4K output this time around.
It's the same as mine then.
Yeah.
All right, what's the next prediction?
New Smash Bros characters?
But we guessed them, didn't we? We guessed who they would be.
Yes.
Okay, so who did we guess?
So Sean, you guessed Spider-Man and Hollow Knight. We each guessed 2. No?
Yeah, neither
Yeah.
of those happened. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we each guessed 2. John guessed Dante or a Capcom representative in general, maybe. And a Xenoblade character.
Oh, well, I was right on that one. We got Pyra Mithra.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to what happened this year.
Yeah, I'm getting the list because I actually forgot who even got announced this year. That's how
Yeah.
How
And
much I
Paul, who
spaced out
did
at the
you
end.
guess?
I guessed Hollow Knight, and then I agreed with you on Spider-Man, but I also said, but it'd be kind of cool if, like, with Hades out on it now, Zagreus or something, like. But yeah,
I think all of our guesses were cooler than who they picked.
I agree.
I got mine right. I don't know. They picked Sora and Kazuya. Those are good choices. Like, I'm trying to remember who was out when we even made this prediction. Like, was
Yeah, I don't
Sephiroth
know.
out? Was Steve and Alex out? Was Min Min out? Were they even on Pass 2 at this point? I generally don't remember, but I know Pyra Mythra wasn't out, and I think that's an excellent choice. And Sora was fun from what I heard, just not like broken as Bayonetta was.
Okay, so we can't push that one forward. So what was the next prediction?
Metroid Prime 4? That, like, there's just a question mark here. I think we had decided, do we see anything about it at all? Because John said yes, and he doubled down with it's going to be tied to a new Switch release sort of thing. Like, that's how we're going to see it.
And then that turned into Metroid Dread instead, so I was half right.
Yeah.
No, you're double wrong. It's Metroid Prime 4.
It was a Metroid game, and it came with a fucking hardware revision. That's half right.
No way. No way. Prime 4 is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, it wasn't Prime 4, but we fucking got a game that people thought was dead for 15 years longer than Prime 4's been. I say that's at least half points. It literally came out alongside the fucking OLED. Half points is all I'm asking.
What are the other predictions? What did I say?
I mean, you just said no, Sean. And I said, yeah, but we're only going to see a trailer.
Points. Yeah, that's how you get full points.
Oh, God. I mean, we could roll this forward.
Oh, hang on. What did you say?
I said, yeah, but only a trailer. That's the only way we see it.
And also nothing. Yeah, we should roll it forward. Totally.
Okay. Metroid Prime 4. Sean, what do you say?
I'm gonna say no. It's too soon after the last Metroid. They won't do it.
Too soon after last Metroid. Okay. John, what do you say? What say you?
I'll say yes, trailer only, though, because specifically of how well the last Metroid did.
Trailer only, specifically because Dread.
It's a good idea. Kind of
rocks.
ride the momentum. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes, trailer only.
Yeah, I'm also saying that because Bayonetta 3 finally got a trailer. So if that also got announced around the same time. So possibly going to start seeing bits and pieces of Prime 4.
Gotcha.
Here's one to put a new prediction now that we just before I forget about it. They just had that a bit of an announcement, more rumor about a new Mario Kart is in production, and there's a big twist.
Oh, so what's the twist?
My question to you is, first off, do we actually hear them announce it? And what do you think the twist is?
Okay, so I'm gonna word this: do we see Mario Kart 9? Question mark.
Yeah, do we see the next like real Mario Kart
as the first part? Yeah, okay.
I'm gonna say trailer at E3.
Yeah, okay. I'll say the same.
I would see that as well. Yeah, trailer at E3. So yes, yeah. Then what do you think the twist could be?
I'm gonna put trailer for all of us. Trailer at E3 / Nintendo Direct, because I mean, it's the same essentially.
I'm gonna say the twist is that it's more like Smash Brothers in the sense that it's not just Mario characters anymore.
I was gonna say
DLC for 8 was basically non-Nintendo, non-Mario.
Like leaning more into that. I see.
Yeah, I think they'll lean more into it being like Nintendo Kart versus Mario Kart.
I'm putting Nintendo Kart for you and me because I agree with you.
I kind of like this one idea I just saw in the chat, but I'm going to twist it a bit. Sly Guy says portals, but I'm going to say it's going to be tracks that are like smashed together with other tracks.
So like
somehow
procedurally
it's gonna just
generated?
be Diddy Kong Racing. It's just going to be Diddy Kong Racing.
You know, yeah, you're probably right. That's probably the easy way to go about it. I hope it's not just that. But I'm going to say it's like tracks, but it's like you're driving on 3 different tracks by the time you finish the track.
All right. I wrote tracks that are smashed with other tracks for your prediction because it's funny to me.
There you go.
All right.
What was our next prediction?
Will they fix Cyberpunk? We all said yes.
Did they? I know they were working on it.
So here's the thing.
Like they did.
Yes, but no. They're still working on it. there's still a lot to do.
The current gen patches have not come out yet, but I feel like they have fixed that game. I don't hear anyone complaining about it. I don't hear them.
Yeah, because nobody's playing about
talking about it.
I can't go back. So I almost have 100% completion in that game. There's stuff I still can't do because they didn't fix the specific bugs for the specific quests I can't do that other people have problems with. So I'm gonna say no, it's not fixed.
Okay. I feel like generally speaking, though, people would say it's fixed.
I mean, they'd be wrong.
What game doesn't have bugs?
Bugs where you can't finish a quest? It's pretty big. Yeah, they're never gonna fix that either.
All right. Yeah. I guess for the letter of the law, it's not fixed. Sure.
But they are still working on it. I don't know. It's half right, honestly.
I don't think we should roll that one forward.
I agree.
That one doesn't make sense.
There is a second part to it. Are people positive on it? We all said yes and no. The answer is no. Not really.
Well, yeah, because they didn't really fix it. So
yeah, I wouldn't say they're like as negative as they were, but they're not like championing it.
They're not
in a
positive.
way that like Siege turned it around or anything.
And I think that's what we were going for. Is like, is this a new No Man's Sky type situation? And it's definitely not that. Yeah. So the next one, do we have any info on the next part for Final Fantasy VII Remake?
And the answer is no, because they did Integrate instead.
Integrate did come out. Yeah, and I feel like that kind of counts because it did continue the story a little bit.
If I don't get credit for Metroid and the new OLED, no.
That was
so for this one, for this one, we all said no. Except John specifically said nothing new at all. No, which is
I'll accept that. I will accept that. I'll accept that.
But I mean, yeah, no, I wouldn't say the Integrate is necessarily in the spirit of what we meant, so I think it's no.
I know. Integrate, I think, was a stupid addition, but I mean, people love Yuffie, so.
Yeah.
I liked my time with it. I'm surprised it got such a little buzz. Like, no one's talked about that thing at all.
Well, how long was Integrate even? Was it 2 hours?
No, I'd say it was closer to 6.
That's actually way longer than I thought.
I thought so, yeah, too. Wow.
If you're doing everything, like there's the whole kind of side quest mini game, and so that's probably an hour to 2 by itself. Okay, do you want to push that one forward?
No.
No.
Okay.
Like Square's, like, here's the thing: the pandemic's also fucked up a bunch of our predictions. Let's be real.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Remember, there was already an announcement saying that Final Fantasy 16's been delayed because of COVID. So, like, there's no way.
I'm supposed to be playing a 4K Switch right now. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah, that was the problem. It might legitimately have caused that problem. Honestly, the chip shortages was no joke. Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
The next prediction: do you own VR? This is for me and John because Sean asked it since he already did. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a great question.
We both said yes, and we were both right.
Yeah.
So yay.
Nice.
Yay.
Let's roll that one forward with a twist of the wording on PSVR 2. Does it launch next year?
Does PSVR 2?
I think yes.
So launch in 2022 is what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
See, I'm torn on this one because they just did an announcement recently about it, but the announcement was that it was named what you had expected it to be named.
And they put out all the specs. And they announced the controllers months ago.
I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah, I'm thinking it comes out this year for sure.
Yeah.
Are you saying yes as well, Paul?
Yeah, you swayed me.
All right. Then what's the price point?
Okay.
I don't even remember how much the other one was.
Me neither. 200, I think.
No, 200 is the deal I got on it, so it was definitely more than that. I want to say it may have been 300. I'm guessing $400.
Look it up.
Now I'm almost second guessing that because it's competing with the Quest 2, right?
That's like what I mean. It'll have, and it has to be lower, especially because the Quest you need nothing, and this you need a PlayStation 5 for.
This one you need to plug it into. But it is a pretty beefy headset, and those controllers are pretty beefy as well.
I think I'm comfortable at 300. Guess.
The PSVR 1 launched at $400 US.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy to think about.
I think this is going to be 300 because of those reasons. It has to compete with the Meta Quest stuff
I
now
think
too.
I think it's staying at the same price point.
At 400? Okay.
400. Okay, you know what? Because I'm so torn, I'm going 350.
Okay.
Because I can see
$1,
both
Bob.
those being
Yeah.
so valid.
I legitimately think one of us is going to be correct. All three of these prices seem likely in different
Which
ways.
means it'll be either $50 higher or lower than Oliver's.
Yeah, exactly right. Any price increase to Game Pass? Question mark. We all said
Didn't they
yes.
Try and got yelled at.
No, I think they
What
tried
did
something
Xbox
with
get yelled
gold.
at for this year? Was that just gold?
I think
I
they
thought
tried
that
something
was
with
Game
gold.
Pass they were trying to do.
No, was this the year that they made it so you had to get Ultimate or something? Didn't that happen where you need to pay $15? Can't remember. I don't exactly remember. I know you can't get gold now, right? You have to pretty much get Game Pass
I think you can
Ultimate.
still get gold, but you have to dig through a million different menus to find the way
It's
to
it's
just
weird.
get that.
Yeah. So I do think they did not increase the price of Game Pass though.
Okay.
So
which nullifies the second part. How much did they increase it by? You two guessed $2. I said $5. We're all wrong because they didn't.
honestly, I would be surprised if they increased it at this point.
I think they will. I mean, if Nintendo increased their prices, I think Xbox will at some point.
Everyone loved Nintendo's increase. Okay, let's roll forward. Do you think Game Pass goes up in price this year? I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say yes.
And are you sticking with by $2?
Ooh, actually, crud. I just realized that the PlayStation one comes out this year.
Oh, we should do that next. We should do that one next for sure.
Ooh, I almost want to say the price goes down, but I don't think they do that. No, actually, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to say they don't change the price.
I was also going to say no, so I'm getting rid of the how much do they change it by. So
cool. So then part 2, Spartacus launches this year. We're all assuming it's definitely going to happen. What do you think so it's a tiered system? That's what the rumor was of pricing. Let's just say, what do you think for whatever the closest thing to Game Pass is? What do you think that tier is?
Oh, probably their highest, right? Because first party stuff.
I meant price wise.
Oh, I see.
Well, because they're also might be rolling it into PlayStation Plus as well. So their highest is probably going to be a games library subscription plus online play. So that it'll probably be significantly higher than Game Pass. So I doubt it's going to be the highest tier. And the rumor also mentioned that the high ones might have some backwards compatibility stuff.
Yeah, I think the rumor was PS1, 2, and 3 games.
I actually bet the lowest tier is going to be the most Game Pass one when it comes to the library of games. Let's do that.
So why don't we just
the live?
So lowest tier is what you. Let's just guess the lowest price, right? Because then anything above is whatever. What's the lowest Sony will go essentially?
I don't know why $35 came to mind.
What I'm trying to say is to get access to the subscription for the game library, that is the equivalent of the Game Pass one, right? What do you think that one is, price wise?
Right. I'm asking this, and how do I write this so that we know what the fuck we said in 365 days from now? Because I'm not gonna remember how we worded this. Sony Spartacus price point. Most equivalent to Game Pass
for the library for the library
or library subscription. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna say $10. They're gonna go under
okay
Xbox because there's no way they're gonna come out of the gate with as strong a lineup. So I don't think they can match the price. They have to have something in their favor, and I think it's a cheaper price point.
Sony hates their customers, so I think they're gonna say 15.
You are also correct that they are on top and can do whatever they want, and people will still say Sony's the best. Microsoft is doing nothing for them. $10 is my guess.
Yeah, I guessed 15.
This is a month, I assume we're talking about here?
Yeah.
And this is just for Game Pass, not for online or anything else?
Correct.
20. I was going to say
Okay.
35, but I think
they're gonna go higher. Holy
yes,
smokes!
it's Sony. They're
Holy
going to go
shit.
higher.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sony are asshats. Okay.
And then here's a partial one that kind of ties to it. Nintendo's subscription service.
Okay.
I think we should word it, are fans happy with it now?
So, are
No.
fans happy with Nintendo Online yet? Question mark.
No.
Well, maybe I shouldn't say fans because I feel like we could say no forever for
Okay.
fans, but I mean like the general audience. It seemed like a good deal because I think across the board everyone says Nintendo's online thing is a bad deal, right?
Are
Like
people
the full
happy
one.
with Nintendo Online yet?
Yeah. So do they kind of change the perception of it?
So we all say no, right?
I think Nintendo's
Nintendo fans don't know how to be happy.
stick in the mud. They're not going to push and be like, we apologize. Yeah, I'm going to say no.
Yeah. The next prediction we have here: any game stream services viable? Kind of like a Netflix for video games, actually. I guess.
What did we say?
Sean, you and I both said yes because apparently we hope too much for Luna or something to get it together. But
Okay.
John said they're going to gain a little bit of ground, but they're still not going to be like well regarded, really.
Yeah, and I
Which
felt
is
that's
like
isn't
the
that what happened with
easiest answer
Nvidia's?
everywhere.
Wasn't that what happened exactly with Nvidia's service? Like they started gaining ground, then they started getting all their games removed off of it.
I would almost say they didn't even gain ground this year.
I know just
people stopped
today
talking
they
about
announced
them.
it's coming to iOS.
Oh, did
That's
they?
like the way you can now play Fortnite on iOS if you want.
Oh, I didn't realize. I
would
haven't
say
heard
John
any
was
talk.
right.
Yeah, for
I feel
sure.
like xCloud alone has, gained some ground.
Yeah, I guess. I wouldn't say it's viable necessarily. Not in the way that I think we meant this question.
It's definitely usable. Like you can load it up and play it, and I have done that. But it's not like a go-to thing I do.
Yeah, it's we shouldn't roll this forward because it's a stupid thing anyways. Because it's like, yeah, of course it's good for us, and like you're in a metropolis like city area with good internet and stuff, like a tech capital essentially. Somebody like in buttfuck nowhere Alabama is like, no, you're never gonna be able to stream games. That's stupid. We can't download pictures like fast. So
yeah, no, I agree.
We shouldn't move this forward. New Mass Effect question mark? So
I feel like it's a no. We did not get a new Mass Effect.
Right. And
isn't by they've got the Legendary Edition, that was it.
Yeah. Sean said not released, but we get some gameplay of something. John said not out, but maybe a trailer at the Game Awards specifically. And I said not out, maybe a new trailer.
Nope. Nothing.
New Dragon Age question mark?
That's a good one. Let's do that one. Because that would come out even earlier than Mass Effect, so it's more realistic.
Sure. So our answers, Sean, you said not released, but some gameplay, and I agreed with you. And John said, yeah, it'll come out at the end of the year, which was a weirdly like firm stance on Dragon Age coming out. So
nope. And then all the stuff happened with with BioWare. So
new Dragon Age question mark I'll put for this next one.
Yeah, we should roll that forward.
This is a hard one because they've kind of said that they are restructuring around how they're doing that thing. So I don't know if that means that they're gonna be backed even further than they maybe were in wanting to show stuff, or if they're gonna like be able to still show something this year.
I agree. I could also see an argument though that they want to like build some hype.
Yeah.
Be like, look, guys, we're working on it. Here's a trailer for Dragon Age 4.
Sure. Like they have to this year, so they're going to show something.
So I want to say yes, a trailer.
Okay.
That's all I'm gonna say though, because I have no idea if they put even like a year on that thing.
I hope you're right, but I'm gonna say no, maybe a tweet mention. But like they're not gonna show
I'm sure
anything.
that'll happen. Yeah. Do you think, John? Dragon Age 4?
No.
Nothing.
Too much weird restructuring stuff going on with them. I'm saying no.
That's what I. Yeah. I think that's a safe bet, but could go either way. Do they finally fix Anthem? John just didn't answer this. It's weirdly blank here, meaning I don't think he even said anything.
And then this is the year that they said we're not doing it.
Yeah, both Sean and I said no.
You're right.
Yeah. Okay, then this is a section called Nintendo stuff, and instead of yes and no's and stuff, there's specific things here. Okay. Sean said no Luigi's Mansion, and Nintendo's going to revive a dead franchise.
Metroid Dread.
Yep, I think that counts.
Okay. I wouldn't have called Metroid a dead franchise, though.
Oh, I definitely would have.
I mean, other than Samus Returns, I see you can argue, which was like, what, 2 years ago at this point? But it otherwise had been kind of on a dry spell.
But also at this point, we had just made a prediction about Metroid Prime 4, so I knew that there's a Metroid coming.
Right. But also Advance Wars got announced last year, so again,
yeah, that franchise works too.
Yes, no, you're right about that one.
Yeah, and that only got bumped because of COVID. So
I don't know what I was talking about with Luigi's Mansion, because didn't that came out the previous year? So all I was saying is there's not going to be yet another Luigi's Mansion like a year later.
I guess so.
It's like, duh. What a weird prediction that was.
When was Bayonetta announced? 3? That was years ago.
I mean, that got announced like 4 years ago, but yeah, like, the trailer was a couple months ago.
Kind of, yeah, I don't know. John said they're going to revive a dead franchise. I think they did. I think that's a pass or whatever. John also said E3 next level games announcement.
Never happened.
Oh, okay.
Actually, yeah, I don't think they've said what they're working on still. Yeah, well, I guess that was probably because we were talking about Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah.
So next level, I hadn't announced anything since Luigi's Mansion 3. So that's now 2.5 to 3 years without anything from them.
Unless
you count the DLC.
I also agreed with you guys. Revive a dead franchise seemed like a solid one to go with. I wanted a Mario Strikers release of some sort.
Yeah, I do too, but there's no way that's happening.
Yeah. I took a shot.
They're slowly redoing the sports ones, so it could happen. You want to roll it forward?
Nah.
Or switch to a different sport?
Nah. We already got tennis and golf, and those are the two that Camelot do.
Fuck it. Mario Strikers. Out now. I'll put for me.
Cool.
I want it so bad. Any other Nintendo predictions?
Was that all the ones from before?
Yeah, we didn't have a whole lot.
And that's all the predictions, so we're done the old predictions?
Yeah, I think so.
Right, yeah, we didn't really have any other ones. Oh, like, no, we have other categories, but that was like game specific or company specific ones. That's the only one.
Let's keep going through the old stuff. We're kind of making new ones as we go. So
does E3 exist still? So we all said canceled, but not dead.
Which is true, but it's looking like next year may be canceled and dead.
Yeah.
Well, they've said it's digital, so it's going to be like the same. So I wouldn't say it's.
Yeah, but like people were already backing out a lot this past year, so I think it's going to be. I think this is the last E3.
Should we roll this forward? I think
we should roll it forward.
Okay.
It is something with the E3 name, like some kind of collective of live streams happening, or is it completely broken up and the E3 is not putting its name on it?
So should I put, does something in the spirit of E3 still exist?
Well, I think that's where we need to make the difference. Instead of putting the spirit, I think you should say something with the name E3.
Yeah.
Because no matter what's there is going to be the spirit of it,
with
right?
the name. Yeah. And then I'll put in quotations. E3 still exist.
So I guess they've said they're going to do a digital thing. So the answer, so yes.
Yeah.
But supposedly they're doing the digital because they let the booking on the convention center expire already, and they just use Omicron as like an excuse. So I think this is the last E3.
Okay, so this is last E3.
Yeah, that's kind of like a 2-year from now prediction, though, right?
Well-
Maybe, yeah. We probably won't have the answer by next game of the year.
Yeah.
We might though, because they're gonna have to start booking people, and they might just be like, "We're
Yeah,
not
it'll
booking
definitely be
people."
something interesting to discuss next year for sure. A year from now,
Yeah.
basically.
What's the first convention after the pandemic? So cute.
Oh,
After the
God.
pandemic.
We can roll this one forward for sure. We can definitely
Sean
do that.
said TGS. John said PAX West, and I said Gamescom. So we were all just guessing.
Well, PAX West happened.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the pandemic's not over, so we could roll this forward again.
Is this of like, do conventions still exist?
Well, here's the thing. Like, I have friends that went to a convention last week, so conventions still exist. They're just in this
Yeah.
weird limbo state.
Yeah,
And
like,
there's always a COVID outbreak there now.
what's the
Yeah.
prediction here around conventions then?
I don't know at this point. Like,
I
feel like
the-
I think any prediction with a convention's also like, is the pandemic done?
I feel like that's the prediction here, though. Is this time next year? Are we still in the pandemic?
Yes.
Is there
Oh, that's so sad
still-
to think about.
I have
That's-
no faith in humanity anymore.
I'm gonna
dude.
say, is there
It's
still the
gone. It's fucking gone.
COVID-19 pandemic? Because there might be another one. Who knows?
Oh god.
Here's
I
the
don't
way
think
I
that's
see
the
things
case.
working out right now. After Omicron's done its whole fifth wave or whatever the hell it's on, we get one last wave that's bad, and then after that it becomes endemic. So it's just a thing we deal with like the flu. The problem is I don't know if that happens before the end of the year, after, or even earlier. My hope is that by the end of summer we're in endemic and we can actually get back to doing
That's-
something close to what our lives are at. But I've lost all faith. At
So
this
that's
point.
what people are assuming likely might happen, and the reason is kind of a dire one, because Omicron is apparently so contagious, is going to get to the point where like literally everybody's just going to be infected, and then at some point the virus is just going to have a harder time finding anybody because everybody's had it, and that's terrifying.
Yeah, but the problem is Omicron can still reinfect people that have had it before, which is the shitty thing.
I don't want to make this prediction.
Yeah, let's not.
I know
bother
it's
with this.
depressing.
I don't
I'm
want to
gonna-
make this.
I'm gonna delete it. Let's not bother. Is Monster Hunter Rise well received? Was that?
You must have made this one. There's no way.
No, I'm guessing this is where Sean just started throwing out like, what are some games coming out or whatever. John said non. Oh, he didn't say anything. It says non-applicable here. Sean and I just said yeah, probably, and yeah, it was. People.
I mean,
like,
I would have said the same thing. I'm like,
Sure.
yeah, it's Monster Hunter.
Yeah, right. Is Village well received? Maybe Sean was just. Oh, he was probably saying to me like, "What are you looking forward to? Do you think this is well received?" Because
Yeah, I was probably just like, hey, make some predictions.
I generally don't have a strong opinion about the gaming industry because I don't fucking care about any of it. I just like games. And we all agreed that it was probably going to be well received, and yeah, it was. It's a meme, so
Yep.
it's the most well received that Resident Evil has been in a while because of boobs, which makes sense.
Yep.
And any new Mega Man thing at all that isn't a collection, Sean didn't have an answer because he doesn't care about Mega Man, and John and I both said yes because we are suckers and we want the
Well,
best.
no, because Rockman Dive came out over here this year.
Oh yeah,
Mobile game.
that's true. I did play a bunch of it too. Okay, it counts,
Congrats.
but
yeah,
it's
English release of Rockman Dive.
it's not in the spirit that we wanted, but it counts.
Yeah. At least the gameplay is kind of like Mega Man.
Yeah, it's fine when you get a controller working with it and don't have to use the on-screen stuff. The on-screen
Yeah.
feels bad, but it's fine. It's an okay game. Okay, let's make specific predictions now, I guess, and then call it a night.
Yeah, this is getting pretty long. Okay, here's one I had came up with. When does the Steam Deck actually come out?
Oh, okay.
Didn't they have an announcement today saying, yeah, they're still looking at end of February?
Yes. I don't know if I believe them, but you have to pick a month.
July.
Beginning of March.
I'm going to say April.
I'm going to say that and beginning of March simply because they said it's likely coming out of February.
Okay.
So
What else we got?
You guys have any other ideas?
No.
We're always. This is the part we always struggle with every year. We always struggle with.
Yeah,
I just came up with one immediately.
Well, then come up with more.
Let me take a look at stuff.
Pokemon Arceus. Is it what we actually want, or is it just a typical, Game Freak disappointment?
Well, what do you actually want?
I feel like that's a loaded question because no Pokemon fan's ever really happy.
Oh,
I'm not
that's
talking
true.
about the Pokemon fan. Me. You can predict what I'm going to think of the game.
I can predict what you do on a good day, Sean.
That's true.
Um,
He didn't even put Tales of Arise on his list, this guy.
I'm going to predict that I'm going to have a good time with Pokemon
Sure.
Arceus.
Okay.
Pokemon Legends
sure.
Arceus.
So John will say sure, and I'm sure we're going to wonder what that meant. But it works for me. And Sean says, I will have a good time. And then I'm going to say, I won't be getting it. But that might turn out to be false as well. So we'll see.
Here's one. Let's make a prediction about the Kirby game. That looks great.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll be good.
So I guess the prediction is how is it received?
Well.
Yeah, I'm gonna say well as well. And then we can also do the Sonic one because it's also looks like an open world kind of thing.
If that does for sure come out next year.
I wouldn't be surprised. They showed off some of it. Or we can do that. Does that Sonic one come out? And if so, is it well received? So it's a two-parter.
Does that have a name?
Horizons?
That sounds right.
Yeah, that sounds right. The Sonic Horizons. So come out, I guess, is the first part.
Yeah, come out, and if Frontiers is the name of it.
Frontiers, okay.
Okay.
Does it come out, and if so, is it well received? That's kind of a bit of a more interesting one because it's Sonic, right?
I think this one's gonna be well received. I think they kept this one in the oven long enough.
Okay. So you think it's coming?
I'm gonna say it does come out, but it's Sonic, so no, it's a bad game.
No, it's a bad game. You know what? I'm gonna say it's bad, but I like it.
Okay.
Because that happens with Sonic games often for me. John, do you think it's well received if it comes out?
Yeah, I said for Sonic Frontiers, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, here's a good one from the chat.
Okay.
Is the Mario movie good? And I'll say this because this is how I felt about the Sonic movie. It's a fine kids movie.
You know what? I think the better question might be which ranks higher on Rotten Tomatoes, Sonic 1 or Mario movie.
That's another good question. Yeah.
So I'll put.
Let me see what Sonic 1's out on Rotten Tomatoes. Sonic the Hedgehog. No, that's the sequel. 63% on the tomato meter and 93 for audience. So let's go off the tomato meter, which is 63.
Yeah. Okay. That's kind of right where I would have guessed it's gonna.
So I'm gonna rate that 63 because that could change as well over time, but it's marked here.
I'm gonna say Mario gets a worse score.
So I put, does it rank higher than the first Sonic movie on tomato meter, 63% in brackets? Perfect. Sean, you're saying no.
I'm gonna say it was worse, and then we should also do Sonic 2. I bet Sonic 2 ranks higher than Sonic 1.
So does Sonic 2 rank higher than Sonic 1? And you say yes. Okay. I think Mario ranks lower as well. And I think Sonic 2 ranks higher. Yeah, I'm following you.
I think the same.
Okay.
But I think Mario is going to be close. I think it's 63 for Sonic right now. I think Mario is going to be like a 58. Because I looked up, because it's the Minions studio doing it, I looked up and the actual Minions movie has a 55, so I'm thinking it's going to be in that range.
My guess is somewhere like 45 that's my guess.
I'm saying the 50s. But yeah, I think Sonic 2 will rank slightly higher. I think it'd be like the 70s.
For Mario, is a Mario movie good I mean, obviously, this is going to just be what we thought
That's
of it.
subjective. Yeah.
So Sean said it's
Yeah,
an
I
okay
think-
kids movie, and if he thinks any worse or better of it, he'll be wrong. But
Just to make it like an easier prediction, let's just keep the score one and just cancel that
Alright.
other one out. Then it's easier to return to.
all
All right, let's do one more prediction. This episode is so long.
Okay.
Paul, why don't you make it? You haven't made a prediction. Pick a game, pick a company, and we'll come up with something.
I want to know more about Ragnarok. So does God of War Ragnarok come out?
Okay.
I think so, because it only got
Yeah.
delayed because of Christopher Judge's sickness.
I think it comes out, and I think it's my game of the year.
Okay, so I'll put, does God of War Ragnarok come out? And then a second part, is it on your list at all? Because, yeah,
Okay.
I agree with you. It's probably on there somewhere, if it does.
And John, I bet you would say yes and then no, probably, right?
I think it's coming out next year, but it probably won't be on my list simply because I'd have to play the first one.
Which is arguably the best game that came out that year. So you would be in for a treat.
But then I probably would not feel the need to play a second one unless I played it really early in the year.
Mm,
I'm also a little torn because Horizon got delayed till February. It was supposed to be last year, so I'm wondering if it's going to be the same thing where like they say it's going to be like October, November, and then when we get there, like, yeah, no, we had to bump it to February.
That's
I'm
kinda
betting
what
it's gonna
I'm
be the
thinking
exact same
too.
thing.
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if God of War comes out in like the summer.
Okay, sure.
But who knows?
Put me down for announces fall release, gets bumped to next year. So I'm going
Okay.
to change my answer then.
Announces
To a double no.
fall
Okay.
release bumped to 2022. Okay.
23.
All three, yeah.
All right. I'm done with predictions. Do you guys have any other ones you want to
I'm
say?
good.
All right. This
Will
has
the
been
top-down
long enough.
perspective exist in 2023?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's not even a prediction. You can take that to the bank.
Wow.
Thank you so much, everyone who listened to a 3-hour podcast about our favorite and least favorite games of the year. Hope you enjoyed it. Here's to another year. Congrats, boys. 12 years of podcasting.
Here's to another year, and hopefully one of us will be replaced by Chris Pratt so we can officially be in the running for Oscars.
Oh,
There
that
we
would
go.
be great. You can take my spot.
We'll have a normal episode next week, so stay tuned for that.
And now questions.
No.
Absolutely not. Good night, everybody.
See ya.
Bye, everybody.